Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Хто води всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 828 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And Ukraine is absolutely smashing Belgorod, and it is burning. And it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, as we have gotten massive news that Ukrainian forces have obliterated the city of Belgorod overnight, possibly with U.S. weapons, which we will be getting into in just a little bit. We have also gotten the major news that the United States of America has officially declared that U.S. weapons of all varieties and types can now be used on any area of territory within the Russian Federation. We have also gotten big news that Ukrainian drone strikes have hit and knocked out the port of Kavkaz on the eastern side of the Kerch Strait. We were also able to get additional news that a $100 million radar system within Crimea was also knocked out as well. On top of that, a massive drone strike occurred in Tatarstan today on the western outskirts of the city of Kazan, knocking out another oil refinery thanks to Ukrainian drone efforts. And not only that, we also got major news that the Germans will be providing an additional Patriot missile defense system. The French have arrested a Chechen terrorist that was planning on bombing the Paris Summer Olympics in 2024. And also, we have gotten huge news from the front lines today showing Ukrainian activity over the past 24 hours. It is an absolutely insane day of news again. It has been a week of news stacked back to back that has been absolutely insane in every single right, not only in how the war in Ukraine has been evolving, but the actions that have been taken by Ukraine in the meantime against the Russian Federation. We have loads of news to cover tonight, a lot of it, and this is going to be moving us directly into the city of Belgorod. As many of y'all have probably heard by this point that Russian forces have been practically obliterated inside of Belgorod by one of the largest missile attacks that we've ever seen Ukraine conduct inside of Russian territory. And according to information that we have, many of these missiles may have actually been American-provided ATACMS missiles that were allowed to strike within the area of Belgorod, or may have been M39 and M40 HIMARS missiles. We will be showing y'all the footage. We have multiple different clips from this attack that occurred in Belgorod overnight, as the Russian air defense was completely overwhelmed, and 40 independent explosions were heard on the ground around the city at different times throughout the barrage. We are going to be showing y'all all of the clips that we have. It's not completely inclusive of every single explosion that happened in the city, but we're going to start off here with the Russian air defense over Belgorod attempting to shoot down some of the incoming air targets. We can see some of the air defense missiles exploding in air. We can hear the air raid sirens going off as they continue to look up into the sky. More air defense missiles exploding. And moving on into our second clip, we can also see up much closer to an air defense siren, the air defense once again active.
Man, that's a spooky air raid siren. Sounds just like a southern tornado siren.
It really does. And these clips...
Also, have you seen the clip where the Russians also have like a really loud like bullhorn going on, telling people to get away from windows and stuff like that? Like they're literally like saying over the loudspeaker, "Step back from the windows, blyat, there's some debris flying around." I
think I do have that clip. Let me look around. Yeah, here it is. Here's the clip from TASS.
That's sad. You gotta tell the Russians, like, stand back from the window, there's debris. Americans.
Dude, I was letting everyone listen to the clip, and then out of the blue you just go, Americans. I was like, oh no, it's the Hanoi Hilton.
Countries abandon you.
Dude, that's what this guy's saying over the speaker. He's like, Russians, your country has abandoned you. It is time for us to get away from the windows, boy. But beyond that, you could hear that the Russian authorities in the city were actually on loudspeakers telling people to try and get as far in the buildings as possible away from windows in case of falling debris from the attack. Moving on from that clip and into our next one, we were also able to see more video of the skies over Belgorod as the barrage continued. This was a shorter 5-second clip right here. And we can see an air defense missile flying over the camera person. And then moving on to the next clip, we can once again see air defense attempting to intercept and destroy targets above Belgorod.
It's quite interesting to see the war actually being brought to Russia's homeland this time, since Russia's been dishing it out on Ukraine and the civilians for a long time. And Ukraine's been dishing it out on Belgorod too, but this is a bigger attack than we've seen in the entire history of the war so far.
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely insane. Here's another clip. We see them once again trying to film the air defense activity above the city. And we now see the shockwaves are finally reaching the camera person. And that's the end of that clip. And then moving on out of this and into our last volume of videos that we got from the city, we were once again able to see a continuation of the shelling. This one was a much shorter clip, but here it is. And that appears to have been an explosion right outside of the building. But with that, that's the end of the clip. But once again, showing us that the city of Belgorod was bombarded massively overnight by missile fire. We understand that the missile fire did end up hitting the ground. While we only have videos of the air defense activity over Belgorod, we were able to get reports at the moment that there have been targets that have been stricken around Belgorod that pertain to the Russian military and the Russian armed forces. Some people, however, have been saying that that is not true, and the Russian government, of course, has come out and already said that the air defense was successful and all targets were shot down. Unfortunately, some falling debris, thanks to their successful interceptions, has unfortunately landed on the ground and ended up damaging a couple of areas around the city, which in other terms means that the air defense was completely unsuccessful and that it made it through and ended up destroying a decent amount of military targets on the ground. I would like to remind y'all that these statements from the Russian Federation are now the new go-to whenever they end up having any kind of serious damage caused by airstrikes, because y'all will remember that just a day or two ago, when the Kerch ferry crossings were attacked, the Russians completely failed at intercepting the ATACMS missiles that hit those ferries. But as soon as the attacks were happening, the Russians already had come out with a statement saying, "It is okay, everyone, do not panic. We shot down every single missile. Sadly, debris ended up hitting boats, causing a little bit of damage." Which is completely untrue, because we saw that the ferries, both of them, sank at their moorings right inside of Kerch Harbor and also up here near this area. And speaking of the Kerch Strait, and speaking of that little bit of information that happened in Belgorod right there, let me quickly take y'all down to Kerch, because we were able to see that the port of Vovchansk, which is right over here on the other side of the Kerch Strait, ended up being hit by Neptune missiles, anti-ship missiles made by Ukraine, that ended up hitting the port of Vovchansk and catching on fire. This was actually filmed from nearby to the port of Kerch. They looked across the water, and you could see Vovchansk port on the other side of the strait on fire, right over there. And there's Vovchansk port. That thing is blazing.
I heard that the Russian fire department classified this fire as a complex one. I can see why.
This fire is a lot like my girlfriend. Complex. Let's give it the fire extinguisher blade.
That's... You know, if the Russians say something's complex, that means they have no idea how to handle it.
Yeah, they're like, it's a little complex. That is the sophisticated way of saying, I have no idea how in the world we're going to put this fire out. But moving on from that, the reason why I moved us down to the port of Vovchansk and the strike that just happened overnight at Vovchansk from the Neptune missiles is because the Kerch ferries, the Kerch railroad ferries that were knocked out by Ukrainian attack, were knocked out by ATACMS. And a lot of people have been saying that the attacks on Belgorod today were most likely, possibly, maybe, majority possible, that it was in fact an American missile attack by ATACMS missiles provided by the United States to Ukraine. And when I say it's American, I'm not saying that the U.S. Army fired these ATACMS missiles. I'm saying that the weapon systems and the actual missiles used were of an American origin, most likely being fired by an M142 or an M270 and fired across the border and into Belgorod. A lot of people are saying that this may have been the first time that U.S. weapons have been used directly on Russian soil at any point in the war. And that brings us over to a bombshell announcement that was made today by Jake Sullivan, I believe the head of the State Department here in the United States, who made a statement on behalf of the Office of the President of the United States and the now update that they have on U.S. weapons being used in Ukraine. I'm going to allow this to play in its entirety without talking through it, so you can hear this monumentous statement that was made today by the U.S. government, and then we'll be explaining what this means going on in the future. And so, here is the quick statement by Jake Sullivan.
With regard to...
Sorry, it's actually Anthony Blinken. Why the hell am I saying Jake Sullivan, Matthew? What in the world got in my mind?
Hey, man, that's a big difference between those two guys, Jake Sullivan and Blinken. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, it's a completely huge difference. This is Anthony Blinken. So sorry, everyone. For some reason in my head, I was getting the names wrong. But here's the clip.
the use of U.S. arms by Ukraine and Russia. I said this the other day. The hallmark of our engagement, our support for Ukraine over these more than 2 years, has been to adapt and adjust as necessary to meet what's actually going on the battlefield, to make sure that Ukraine has what it needs, when it needs it, to do that deliberately and effectively. And that's exactly what we're doing in response to what we've now seen in and around the Kharkiv region. Over the past few weeks, Ukraine came to us and asked for the authorization to use weapons that we're providing to defend against this aggression, including against Russian forces that are massing on the Russian side of the border and then attacking into Ukraine. That went right to the president, and as you've heard, he's approved the use of our weapons for that purpose. Going forward, we'll continue to do what we've been doing, which is, as necessary, adapt and adjust. And that, as I said, has been a hallmark of our engagement. It will continue to be. As I've also said many, many times, we want to make sure that we're proceeding deliberately as well as effectively. So I think time and again, we've adapted, we've adjusted, we've provided Ukraine with the systems, the weapons that it's needed. But again, as I've shared with you many times before, for example, when it comes to weapon systems, we also want to make sure that they have the necessary training to use the weapons and they have the necessary capacity to maintain them. So you have to look at this in a comprehensive way. And I think if you look back, as well as look at what we're doing now, it reflects a very deliberate determination to make sure that we're getting Ukraine what they need when they need it.
Now, Enforcer, you want to be a politician one day. You're going to learn how to talk in circles like that, not get to the point in like literally 5 seconds. Like drag it out for 2 minutes.
So really the most important part, let's see, let me make sure to go back so that way we can go and get the statement directly, because this was 2 minutes long and there was really only one specific sentence that's the most important in this entire thing. It's this one right here.
And that went right to the president, and as you've heard, he's approved the use of our weapons for that purpose.
So right there, that is the statement that we needed to hear. Anthony Blinken came out today, and he has confirmed that the United States of America has approved the use of our weapons for the large part, to an unlimited extent, in every variety, to the Ukrainians to strike on Russian territory, which is a first of its kind. And this just came out, I believe, about 14 hours ago, maybe 16 hours ago, at the point of the stream's running. This means that when this attack happened on Belgorod, and it appears that it was one of the largest and most successful attacks that has ever happened at the moment. I don't know why in the world Epic Games wants to tell me that there's a game sale going on right now, but anyways, while that is the case, it does seem entirely possible that this can be the first use of Ukrainian American missile systems by Ukraine on Russian soil. They may have already had some sort of an artillery mission in mind before they got U.S. approval, and as soon as they got U.S. approval, they immediately executed upon the idea which they had, which was to start striking military targets around Belgorod, severely weakening and crippling the supply efforts and also reinforcement efforts of Russian forces inside of northern Vovchansk, and then help out the Ukrainians with the counteroffensive that is currently going on in this area. This is something that I would have to say is very wild to see, and it is really interesting to know that the Ukrainians highly likely have used U.S. weapons today for the first time ever to strike targets inside of Belgorod. And of course, a lot of people have been talking about this, Ukraine's massive strike on Belgorod and using U.S. weapons for the first time. And a lot of people have been having thoughts about this. Some people are saying that Ukraine will get away with this attack, like it's like they're like the Joker or something, like they're going to get away like some kind of a villain. Some people have said that Ukraine has crossed Russia's last red line, and now the real consequences are coming. Now the real Russian army, wherever they are going to be coming out of the woodworks and beating around Ukraine. And then some people said it will probably cause a minor response, which will most likely include the Russians attacking Ukrainian civilians again. And then some people are a little unsure on this and don't really know what to think of it, rather than this was a major ordeal that happened inside the area of Belgorod today. A lot of people have been talking about what's going on in Belgorod. And Matthew, what are people saying about it, and what are people thinking about this right now? And what are you thinking about it?
Okay, so in reference to Ukraine for the first time ever, allegedly using U.S. weapons on Russian soil tonight, and it came just a few hours after the actual authorization was given by the U.S. government, Ukraine immediately started attacking Belgorod. So they wasted no time whatsoever. It looks like 41% said Ukraine will get away with the attack, while 25% said it will cause a minor response, and 24% said Ukraine has finally crossed Russia's last real red line. And on this one, I'm going to have to wait and see here. I'm going to go with it'll probably cause a minor response for now. But then again, we've seen a lot of Russian government officials come out and say that if U.S. weapons are used on Russian soil like they were right now, that would be basically a declaration of war by NATO, and Russia would be going to war with the West. Obviously, Russia said things like that before, but this time we'll have to see, because this is a step further down the escalatory sort of like ladder here. So we'll have to see if that actually goes over with the Russians the way they claim it will. I have a feeling it's probably hot air, but you never know. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that, in my opinion, it's going to be one of two things. Either Ukraine will get away with this attack completely, or it will cause a very minor response by the Russians. There's not really a lot that they can do in reality, and on top of that, these weapons are not threatening the sovereignty of the Russian Federation, for that matter. They're not being used directly by the United States, the armed forces of the United States, or the armed forces of any other country within NATO, and for that reason, I would believe that a Russian response to this situation would most likely be incredibly difficult. And so, in my opinion, I would believe that either they're going to get away with this completely and nothing will happen, or if something does happen, it's going to be an incredibly minor response. It probably will be a missile and drone raid or airstrike like we've seen regularly, although this one will be said to be in revenge of what the Ukrainians did at Belgorod using American weapons. It will be something along that line. We've seen a large amount of bots. I mean, it's an unbelievable army of them that have come in tonight, and Matthew's constantly fighting them right now in the live chat, who are like, "You idiots!" Like we're the ones who bombed Belgorod today. Like, they're going to use tactical nukes! And they're not. I will already let y'all know that up front. Tactical nuclear weapons are not going to be used at this moment. That is highly unlikely. It is probably not possible at all. If tactical nuclear weapons were used, we'd be wildly shocked. That would be extremely escalatory given the situation at hand. I just do not see that happening at the moment. And so,
but Enforcer, but Enforcer, Putin brought out Medvedev though today. He brought him out. You know, the Mad Dog Bulldog. He brought him out to
real?
give the West a few tough words. Yeah, he actually brought him out today.
Oh my God.
Whenever Putin wants to make a statement that's insane, he brings out Medvedev, because Putin doesn't want to look like a complete clown by saying it himself and then backing out of his threat. So he brings out Medvedev to say it himself. But, Medvedev is a raging lunatic drunk, and he comes out occasionally just to cause some havoc.
Yeah, dude, Putin's like, "Oh, wow, this can get a little concerning." And then he just opens up the drawer in his desk and pulls out like a tiny Medvedev. "Say something funny." And then Medvedev's like, "We will kill you all! We will kill you!" And he's like, "Thank you." And then he puts him right back in the drawer and he's like, "Okay, back to business." But like, I really do not think anything is going to be coming out of this that is that major. Because right now, the Russians have done everything they can on the conventional level in Ukraine. The next thing that they could do is begin a conventional war with the West, which they will, of course, lose. That's a certainty. It's not even a question. They would lose that conflict. But I will say this though, because some people are always going to be in the mindset when I say that we are going to steamroll them from day one. Oh no. They would probably close the Suwalki Gap, and they would probably push NATO forces almost to the Baltic Sea. But then we would rebound. We would, of course, grind down their forces as they tried to push forwards. Their supply lines would become overextended, and then we would be able to reinforce the area and begin counterattacks. So going off of that, That's what I would believe would happen if there was a conflict that happened in Eastern Europe where a conventional war began, but it would not be the kind of peer-on-peer conflict that we're seeing in Ukraine where it ends up devolving into trench warfare. It would be a highly mobile form of warfare, both initially when the Russian forces begin their offensives along with the Belarusians, and then right afterwards when the United States and NATO forces begin their counterattack and start to push the Russians out of the Baltics, out of Poland, and right back into Belarus and Russia, and then probably on into there. The thing with that, though, is that during that entire conflict, there most likely would be negotiations being conducted by both sides to see if there could be any kind of an arrangement that would lead to a status quo antebellum agreement, meaning that everything would go to the way it was before the war began. And if that could not be reached, and U.S. forces, well, really NATO forces as a whole, it wouldn't just be America, continuing to drive their way deep into Belarus and towards St. Petersburg and Moscow, then we would probably see that Russia would start to deploy tactical nuclear weapons on NATO forces, meaning that they would be knocking out probably entire corps with tactical nuclear weapons. We would start using them in turn, and then once those armies were almost completely devastated on the battlefield, and the West, and NATO would still most likely be making gains and advances towards Moscow, then that's when an intercontinental ballistic missile exchange would occur in between Russia, France, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and everyone else in between. And so going off of that, all of that put together, I would have to say that I do not believe for a single minute that nuclear war is on the horizon because of this instance right here. There are so many steps of escalation that it would take to get to that point that I just do not think it will happen, in my honest opinion. So, going off of that, I hope that does address that well. I would really have to be with the 41% that say that Ukraine will get away with this attack. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But for now, it looks like they probably will. And moving on from that little bit of news, in Belgorod, we were also able to get some really interesting news from inside of Crimea today, hearing that apparently a Russian NEBO, a NEBO SVU radar that cost around $100 million, pictured right here, ended up being destroyed near near Armyansk. This is a very interesting thing because we did not really hear a lot about the Armyansk attack, and I'll be showing you where Armyansk is inside of Crimea. And so let me go Armyansk right here, and it is right here. Here is Armyansk, and apparently this radar station or this radar relay was right in this peninsula, which is kind of stupid because you can't even really move it anywhere. You can only move it north or south, and the Ukrainians would be able to probably predict that fairly well. But nevertheless, there was a NEBO SVU radar system in this area that ended up being destroyed yesterday during one of the attacks that Ukraine conducted on Crimea. We have only heard about this today, and we're still waiting for some good picture and video evidence to come out of this, but we were able to hear the preliminary report according to the Ukrainian armed forces that it has been destroyed, which sounds like a very good thing. Radar systems like these being destroyed make sure that Russian air defense and Russian air defense, Russian ground air defense and Russian air defense are far less effective than they would be because they won't be able to pick up Ukrainian forces and Ukrainian missiles and triangulate their defense efforts towards those targets as easily as they do right now. So that is actually incredibly huge news, and not only that, that was an incredibly costly radar system to lose in the area of Armyansk. But moving on from that little bit of news, and deep inside the Russian Federation, deep into Russia, in the oblast called Tatarstan, and I'm not kidding, it's actually called Tatarstan. Let me draw y'all a little map. Measure the distance. That is a good 660 miles away from Ukraine where this strike happened today. We got to hear that a little Ukrainian drone was puttering its way across Tatarstan. Here's a clip of that drone. It's a Lyudi. And it's just going on its way, taking a little adventure. Блядь, ты сука, блядь. Пиздуки ты нахуй, блядь.
They sound so shocked. They're like, I can't believe it. There's a drone flying over the territory. It's never happened before.
This guy's looking around. He's like, bro, I'm in Tatarstan. He's like, you ain't from Tatarstan if you've never done this before. And then he watches the drone fly over. But anyways, moving on from that, now let's get to the damage. So moving on up into the area of the small outskirt of Tatarstan that I believe is called Voronino. Voronino, I believe it's called, which is right on the western side of the city. So let me take y'all to Kazan, which is right over here. And then let me zoom in to the area around Voronino, which is right here. And apparently, from what I have heard, there is some kind of an oil refinery, and I believe these are the silos that we're talking about right here, that were targeted. Oh, hang on. Whoops. Here's the oil refinery right here. Like, there it is, right next door. So here's the refinery that ended up being targeted and destroyed. And according to what we know, this is the Voronino oil refinery. So now, without further ado, and let me move this marker a little bit closer to where it really is, here is the clip of the successful drone attack that was conducted by that Liudi today. Here's a picture of the explosions that occurred in the refinery. I love that meme, by the way, down there in the bottom right. That's actually kind of nice. And then moving on from that, we got to see the raging fires that were caused from the explosion. Isn't that nice? And then we got to move on.
That meme down there is like, that's when Medvedev has a bottle of that top shelf Popov vodka. That's why he looks red-faced.
Bro, dude, Popov be going, damn, dude, this shit tastes like gasoline. Dude, that's him. That's really him. But then here's another fire, and it does, from what we can tell, look exactly like the silos that were right here. Because notice something very interesting. Notice the privacy fence, which you can see right here. Notice the railroad tracks. All of this leads us to believe that this camera angle was taken from somewhere around right here, looking at these silos right across the way. Because you can also see the little oil loading rack right here, or the refined fuel loading rack that goes along the railroad ties right there in between the two tracks. And you can also see that right there in this picture. So this was taken from inside of a vehicle that was about right here on this little road, this little access road just south of the railroad, looking up at this silo. It appears to be the third one right here to the right. So once again, an absolutely successful drone attack by Ukraine, knocking out a decent bit of fuel supplies that the Russians are needing for this war effort, and once again making sure that they are going to be sucking more and more out of the strategic fuel reserves, and there will be even less and less of it in the strategic fuel reserves for the Russian Federation to use. Which is an incredibly good thing. I can't say how incredibly good that is enough, and it's wonderful to know that they were able to do such an incredible and amazing thing today, is striking the Voronino oil refinery right on the very outside edge of Kazan. Also, another thing that y'all might remember is that this airport, which actually manufactures Tu-160s, because it's actually a manufacturing, not really a normal airport. This is specifically used to land bombers for repairs and normal maintenance cycles, and then also to refit other bombers and make them flyable, like this Tu-160 you can see on the tarmac right here, which is being refitted. Y'all may also remember that a Ukrainian drone flew right over the Voronino oil refinery earlier on in history, and then ended up landing right on the roof of the Tu-160 factory and knocking it out. And for what we know, that factory is still knocked out when the Voronino refinery strike happened today. But wonderful to know that they were able to just blow these people out of the water and make sure that the Russian oil refineries are still in a pretty tough and difficult state. Also, another nice little target may be these Russian ammunition storage sites, it appears, that are down here in this area, because it looks like they made a security perimeter around it, so I'm assuming, oh, this has got to be a Russian base of some sort, like, because, or is it? Because it looks as though it would be, because this looks exactly like a normal Russian munitions dump anywhere else inside the Russian Federation, but we will have to do a little bit more checking on that and make sure in the future. This actually says it's a chemical plant, so we'll have to do some more research, but it looks like Kazan may be target rich a little bit. And also, by the way, Chris's mom apparently has been around here, because this is the Palace of Culture of Railway Men, and we know that Chris's mom likes trains, but not ones that she's riding on. But anyways, moving on from that little bit of news and out of Kazan, we are now going to be moving on into a little bit of more additional good news. And let me take y'all over here into Germany for this good news. We were able to hear that the German government announced today that they will be providing another Patriot surface-to-air missiles defense system to Ukraine. This came out from the official Twitter account of the German Foreign Office, saying that strengthening Ukraine's air defense remains crucial. Germany is contributing another Patriot system and an additional 500 million euros. Just straight cash. Together, we must maintain our steadfast support and commitment. And that is great to hear. Thanks to the German Foreign Office for letting everyone know that another Patriot missile defense system is on its way into Ukraine to help defend Ukraine's skies, and once again helping them to bolster their air defense as much as they possibly can. And now, we have to move on to something of great scandal that happened today inside of Paris. As many of you all know, France, and specifically the city of Paris, are getting ready for the 2024 Summer Olympics, which is a very big thing because one of the big projects of this Olympics is to make the Seine River through the middle of France swimmable. The Seine River has been completely undrinkable for thousands of years, and it's been completely unswimmable for several hundreds of those years as well. And the French government has been trying very hard to create a public works project to refit their sewage system so that way all of the sewage water from the sewers doesn't get dumped into the Seine where it ends up creating a toxic hellscape out of the river. That is so toxic that fish die in it, or fish can actually completely change their sex from male to female or female to male, which is another interesting thing that's been observed in the Seine from all of the pollution. But beyond that, what is very interesting is that while the French are working on this incredibly interesting project inside of the Seine River and really the surrounding area around Paris, trying to make sure that the Olympics will be ready, we heard today that the French police have arrested a Chechen national who, according to what they understand, was suspected of preparing a terrorist attack during the Paris 2024 Olympics. The French Interior Ministry announced the detention of an 18-year-old native of Chechnya on suspicion of preparing a terrorist attack during the Summer Olympic Games. We don't really know a lot about this, but it does, of course, tie back to the Russians. Of course, Chechnya being a part of the Russian Federation, and also Ramzan Kadyrov really being kind of the leader of a terroristic cult inside of that area of Russia. It is entirely plausible that this could be an attempted terrorist attack by the Russian Federation or by a Russian national, for the most part, against the Paris Summer Olympics that will be happening here incredibly soon. And so
I'm just saying, but those Olympics are going to be so dangerous, in my opinion, to go to. I personally wouldn't step foot into that place, wherever they're holding them there in Paris. That is going to be super dangerous because I'm sure that's one of the plots right there. But considering that there's literally a war on over there, and the Chechen has already been found out to be trying to plot something over here, I'm sure there's many other plots probably going on as well. I would personally be scared to death to show up to that. But, you know, you can't really cancel it because that would be sort of giving in to the terrorists. But at the same time, you know, I hope to have really good security, but it's just going to be pretty risky.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be incredibly risky, and a lot of people have been talking about that and wondering about what this means or what will happen because of this. I have a feeling the Olympics will carry on as normal. It's just that security is going to be insane, probably to the point it will make the event unenjoyable. But of course, that is kind of the cost of making sure to balance safety and also keep the event running. But still, a very difficult tight line or tightrope for the French government to try and walk. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And also, another thing that I find really interesting about France is that they have this hotel over here called the Hotel des Invalides, and I thought that that was Putin's mansion on the Black Sea. I didn't know that they had a building like that in Paris. But beyond that, hey, kind of cool. Anyways. Moving on from that, and also, by the way, this is actually a museum for the French army, just letting y'all know that. Let me show y'all that. Let me show you that really quickly, because some people are going to be like, what is this? What is that building? Here's actually the Crypt of Napoleon, which is kind of neat. And then you also have a decent amount of additional, let's see here, I believe it's here we go, military artifacts, such as these 16th century armor sets, which are pretty cool. This Renault FT-17, one of the first tanks in the world that actually had a rotatable turret, and a whole bunch of other stuff in the military. It's actually a pretty interesting place, and I heard a lot of people say that it's really cool to go check out and really, you know, kind of take an entire day to tour. But beyond that, I hope I was able to address what that building is well, since we made a joke on it, and a lot of people are going, wait a minute, what is that building? But anyways, moving on from that, we have a big question to ask. Because, of course, Medvedev came out today and said a whole bunch of stupid stuff, as many people do know. And Russia has reiterated that attacks on Russian soil with U.S. weapons will start a war with NATO, and a lot of people have been having thoughts about that. Some people are saying that Russia will never go to war with NATO, and the statement is dead in the water as soon as it's been given. Some people are saying that maybe, but it would only be in a really dire situation that the Russians would go to war with NATO. Some people are saying that Russia will start a war very soon, right now, and get in your bunkers and prepare to die. And some other people are saying that they're unsure about this. But everyone has a little bit of a different opinion. And Matthew, what are you thinking about this statement from the Russians, and what is everyone else thinking about it as well?
All right, so it looks like about 60% of the audience says that Russia would never go to war with NATO, while 19% said maybe, but only in a dire situation, and 14% said Russia will start war very soon now that the U.S. weapons have been used on Russian soil. And on this one, I would say I'm personally not with the 60%. The whole thing about supporting Ukraine is because we believe that if Russia were to take Ukraine, then they would move on to NATO countries. So in my opinion, it's not too far-fetched to say that Russia would attack a NATO country one day. That would be a very stupid thing to do, but it was pretty stupid to invade Ukraine in itself, but they did it anyway. So I wouldn't put that past Russia, but I am with the 19%. I think they would only probably do it in a dire situation, at least right now at the moment, because even Putin has said before that if the Russian conventional forces go up against NATO, they are going to get crushed. They're even getting crushed in Ukraine right now by the Ukrainian forces, and they're not nearly as powerful as the NATO alliance itself. So Russia would be screwed. They'd be walking right into failure if they did that. But I wouldn't let common sense stand in the way of a good mistake, considering it is Russia. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that the Russians would probably not go to war with NATO because it would be a disaster. Like Matthew said, and this is something that we've known since 2015 and 16, Putin has openly admitted since that time in history that the Russian army would be completely defeated on the battlefield by NATO forces. There's just no comparison in between the two. And when you look at the actual numbers and proof behind them, there is no way that they could win. I mean, Ukraine's proving that incredibly well. When you can't even fight a country that wasn't known at all for having a military, you would probably be hard-pressed to fight a whole bunch of countries that are famously known for having very competent and very well put-together militaries, like Poland, Germany, France, the UK, and the United States, just to name a few. And then you have all of the other NATO members as well, that while being smaller in size, they are usually as professional and as well put together in armed force as really any other major NATO power. And so when they would go up against the Russians, they would inevitably lose. There's just no way that they would win. Because why in the world would the Ukrainians be winning in Ukraine and have a military that, by an honest actual assessment, is far worse than any Western military? And then when the Russians fight a military that's far better than Ukraine's, they would steamroll us. That would make no sense. That just logically does not work. Because if they can't beat a level 5 country, how in the world are they supposed to beat a level 10 country? You know, it just doesn't make any sense at all when you try and think about it in any metric like that. So going off of that, I have a feeling that they probably not want to start, or they probably wouldn't start a war with NATO because they know it would be a losing fight from the outset. They may as well just start moving on to preemptive nuclear strikes, tactical nuclear strikes at least, if they were to try and do something like that, because there's no way in hell they would ever win that confrontation. But that's my honest opinion on it. But I mean, like, you know, it doesn't take a lot of common sense, in my opinion, to see that the Russians are a country that you can mess with all day. I mean, they're incredibly weak. Their economy is incredibly poor. Like today, I actually heard someone say that the Russians are a country not to be messed with, which I find quite funny because Russia as a country has a GDP that's equivalent to South Korea's or Texas. You can pick one or the other, and they're pretty interchangeable. But Russia has a GDP less than that. And let me go pull that up for y'all. GDP of South Korea, just to give y'all a comparison here. And then let me go to Russia. GDP of Russia. So, this number has to be juiced because there's no way in hell that that's accurate. But the South Koreans have a GDP of about 1.7 trillion US dollars. The Russians have a GDP of about 2.2 trillion dollars, meaning that South Korea is actually pretty close. It's in spitting distance of the Russian economy, the entire Russian economy. So just put that into perspective really quickly. South Korea has about the same spending power as the entire Russian Federation does right now. How in the world is this country, the Russians, how in the world are they supposed to be able to be a force to not be reckoned with when they can hardly afford toilet paper for their houses? Or better yet, afford a sizable and competent military? They're not a country to be reckoned with. That's like saying, oh, the Navy SEAL should be scared of the African child soldier with the AK because that child shouldn't be trifled with. It's like let's just be honest here. That is a child with no training and an AK, and it's going up against a Navy SEAL, which has been trained to the extreme. Like, in an open confrontation, the Navy SEAL would win against the African child soldier. Sounds really crass to say something like that, but it's true. And that's what a confrontation in between NATO and Russia would be. It would pretty much be putting a Navy SEAL against a child soldier. The Navy SEAL would win.
That's why, in my opinion, we have to watch out a little bit here. I'm not saying to bow down to Russia, because we shouldn't ever do that, and we're not doing that. But at the same time, we have to keep in mind that Russia is fully aware that its forces are not very powerful. They don't have a very good military, and also their training absolutely sucks. And right now, they're struggling to keep up even in Ukraine. So that's why, in my opinion, that makes the possibility of a nuclear threat, a legitimate one, much more likely, because that's all Russia has. And with the nuclear radars being knocked out inside of mainland Russia, plus now we have the border villages like Belgorod, that city there on the border, getting attacked by U.S. weapons. That's starting to give Russia all the justification they might need to tell their people it's time to do something heinous to the West or Ukraine and potentially launch a tactical nuke. It sounds crazy, but at the same time, what does Russia really have left? They're sort of getting backed into a corner here, a corner they've created for themselves, but nonetheless, it is a corner, and that could be when they lash out.
That is true, and that is something to be a little concerned about. But at the same time, it's really hard to see them doing anything at all. I mean, because they really have no backing from what we understand. The Chinese aren't even big friends of them, or really want to be big friends of them, because even now, while we know that they're providing them a little bit of lethal support, it isn't much at all. It's not even really measurable. So going off of that, while they do have nuclear weapons, they could start going to the extreme. I still feel like they probably would not go to war with NATO. It would be a bad mistake. And not only that, let's just look at this. The Germans, which are on this graph, have a GDP of about $4.1 trillion. So put that into perspective. Germany alone has almost an economy twice the size of Russia's. And that's by 2022 numbers. These are pre-war GDP figures. The Russian economy right now is maybe at around 1.4, 1.3 trillion. And so going off of that, the Germans actually have an economy twice the size, well, hell, like 3 or 4 times the size of the Russian economy at this point. In spending power alone, the Germans could actually beat the Russians. And that's what matters in the end, is who has more money and who can buy more stuff. And I saw Thomas Engel in the chat say, yeah, but Russians have an inexhaustible amount of natural resources. And that's true too, but the problem is, and this has been shown perfectly in one single facet of the Russian economy, through the oil industry, they can drill for as much oil as they want, and they can pump out millions of barrels a day. And in fact, I think it is, it's millions of barrels. I think it's like 13 million or something along those lines per day. Actually, is it billion or million, Matthew? I'm trying to think. Russian...
Like the oil? You're talking about, like, good Lord, a $500 donation from
What?
Snow White. Thank you very much for
my
that.
God.
Good Lord, massive amount.
Good Lord! That's like the second night in a
crazy.
row. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Snow White. Thank you. And also, thank you for liking the merch. But we will get to that in literally just a second. But Russia produces 10.8 million barrels of oil per day. And Thomas Engel, you have a pretty decent point there in saying, well, yeah, they have an unlimited amount of raw resources, raw natural resources. But the same argument can be made for Africa, like being entirely honest. Africa actually is the most resource-rich continent on the face of the earth in every single metric. They have more raw iron, they have more raw oil, they have more raw everything. Problem is that African countries are economically underdeveloped, and they also don't have any kind of advanced industry to be able to not only extract those resources, but refine them into something usable themselves. And for that reason, it does not matter how much natural resources they have. They don't really have anything to make out of it. I mean, you can drill all of the crude oil you want out of Russia, but at the end of the day, if you can't put that in a car, a tank, or a plane, and make that car drive, make that tank roll, or make that plane fly, or make that ship move, that oil is completely useless to everyone in Russia. Just like iron is. If you can't refine that iron into pig iron or further on into steel, it is completely useless to the Russians and to everyone else in the world. There's nothing to really make out of it. And so I hope that does address that well, because yeah, they might have an unlimited amount of resources. That's true, but I just don't think it's going to mean anything for the Russians long term. And the Russians are just wildly weak. I mean, even in the Department of Defense now, the Russians have been moved out of the way as an adversary, because up until the war in Ukraine and about a year into it, the United States Department of Defense said the United States' primary adversaries in the world stage right now are the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China. A year into the war, really in the beginning of 2023, the Russians were knocked off of that list, and now they are considered a minor adversary, and the only major adversary we have right now is the People's Republic of China, because the Russians have proven themselves not only economically to be incredibly weak, but militarily they're also wildly weak as well. The only thing that keeps them kind of in the running as being a bit of a threat is the nuclear arsenal that they have, and it really begs the question, considering how few funds they have, are any of those nuclear weapons in an extremely large number operational, or are any of them operational? But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, it is time for us to move on into some questions, because I know that we have an amazing super chat from Snow White. We just saw that a moment ago. It was absolutely unbelievable. And Matthew, get us on into those questions.
All right, so the first one is obviously going to be from Snow White, the largest super chat of the night, a $500 donation, the largest that YouTube will let anyone throw in on a live stream. Huge shout out to Snow White for that massive support. And Snow White said, nice merch, and will you pick a question?
And thank you so much for enjoying the merch, Snow White. And that brings us on into our sponsor for the night, officialenforcerstore.com. I'm just kidding. It's not a sponsor. We don't have sponsored streams. But this is a limited edition merch run that is happening this week. And I gotta say, Snow White, I thank you for really liking the merch designs. And I gotta say, aren't they beautiful? Aren't they beautiful? The t-shirts and the patches are incredibly beautiful, and I absolutely love to see it. And I gotta thank you so much for saying that they're really nice. And not only that, these LSA t-shirts come in black, military green, navy blue, light pink, and charcoal. They're Gildan unisex crew neck t-shirts made of 100% soft cotton, grown and harvested here in the United States. You can't find a t-shirt that screams LSA more than this LSA flag t-shirt. And also, Matthew, did you get me those t-shirts? You know, the ones in black, military green, and navy, and all that. Did you get?
You got to remember, remind me after the stream. We'll get them.
Dang, man, we keep forgetting. Also, we got to get them while we can. And speaking of while you can, we are most likely going to extend the limited edition run into next week. We have gotten so much demand for that we will most likely extend it on into maybe Wednesday or Thursday of next week at this moment. But for now, we are still going to be ending it tomorrow night, but we will have an official statement for all of y'all about what is going to happen with this limited edition run and when it will end. But for now, I'm going to let y'all know it's still ending at the end of the stream tomorrow night. But we are most likely going to extend it on into the middle of next week, so that way everyone can get a chance to try and get the shirt. The shirts are $25 a pop, and they can ship literally everywhere in the world as well. They are in a classic style, meaning that it will be a pretty good fit for everyone. It's not going to be too loose. It's not going to be too tight. It's like Goldilocks. It's just in the middle. And not only that, we also have the combat patches, or as they're called, morale patches. These are really cool. They are literally a carbon copy of the flag of the Lee Spring Army, which many people got signed. Hundreds of them are out there in the world right now, and there are currently hundreds of folks who want the LSA limited edition patch. Y'all can get as many of these things as you want. We are going to be personally packing them and shipping them from Enforcer HQ, and these are sadly only available to US customers only. And Matthew, I was kind of leading to this a little bit last night. We were talking about there may be a possible workaround for the international viewers to be able to try and get this patch right now. And is that going to be possible, or is it not going to be possible for all of our international viewers?
So I've done a ton of research on ways to try to make that work for international viewers. The sad part is I can't find any program that would make it any cheaper to ship. I did look into Pirate Ship, which was one suggestion. It was actually more expensive than our current system, so that won't work. The only thing possible that I could think of to make it worthwhile is to sell the patches in like a 3-pack or something like that. But even at that, that really doesn't negate the $16 or so shipping that's going to be on average to ship it around the world. So I don't know. Y'all let us know in the chat what y'all think about that. If y'all think that's a little bit ridiculous, which honestly, I'm going to say it outright, the $16 shipping is a bit ridiculous for that. But I mean, if y'all are open to it, we could possibly do it. But we can always keep brainstorming and coming up with other ways instead.
And so let us know in the chat, all of our international viewers, would y'all be okay with paying ludicrous shipping prices? And we're going to make it entirely honest, because when we run this store, we want to make sure that the products are as high quality as possible, and we're also trying to get them for the lowest prices as possible, so as many of y'all who love the LSA can get this stuff. But the thing is that Matthew and me both saw, and that's why this isn't available to international viewers right now, that the shipping costs are going to be absolutely insane, sometimes being twice the value of a single patch just to ship a single one to most foreign countries. Some of y'all might be a bit offended by that, and that's why we didn't want to do that, because we didn't want y'all to go, wow, what a cool patch, I want one, and then get to the shipping tab and then be like, $16, what are they trying to rip me off? And no, we're not. Like, the thing is that we've gotten this patch to as cheap as it can possibly be. The problem is that the shipping, we can't get any lower. That's literally the just basic rate for shipping. So if y'all wanted these internationally, we would have to deal with the crazy shipping costs. And I'm seeing a lot of people saying $16 is crazy just to ship a patch.
Yeah,
and that's what we were
is.
saying. Like, that's what we were saying. That's why it's not available to international viewers, because we don't know how in the world to get that down. We have tried everything, and that's the cheapest kind of shipping rate that we could find for most countries. And so, and also DL Hemingway said, an hour's paid for shipping. That's exactly what we've been saying. Like, I'm seeing a lot of y'all like, that is incredibly high, and it's insanely high. Like, that's why we didn't allow international viewers to be able to get it, because it's offensive to even hear that shipping costs that much. Like, we don't even like it. That's why we wouldn't allow it. So it looks like a lot of y'all are like, dang, that would be absolutely insane. And also John Spruitt said, Canadian shipping shouldn't be that high. And I think it was that high, if I'm correct, Matthew.
To Canada, I think it was a little under $16. 16 was like the average. Australia, I'm sorry, you got screwed over again. It was like $22 to go to Australia. It was like 16 to go like to Germany or something like that. And then I think it was like 12 or 13 or 14 to go to Canada. But it was outrageous pretty much everywhere you looked.
Yeah, I mean, it was insane. And so Matthew and me at the beginning, we were like, should we even do a patch? I mean, most international viewers aren't going to be able to get it. And then we were like, you know what? Like, we want some people to be able to get the patch because they look incredibly cool. So we will make it US only until we figure out something for the international viewers. So I'm going to run you all through a couple of the ideas that we have. Like, this is supposed to be a plug for the merch, but I also want all of the international viewers to know we're not trying to throw y'all to the curb about the patch. We're trying to find out ways to make this work. One of the solutions that we had is that y'all could buy these in bulk. We could sell these specifically for international viewers in groups of 3. So y'all get 3 patches in a pack instead of 1. It would cost about $30 to do that, but it would make the shipping sensible. Or we could wait several months, and then every few months, after we have multiple different patch designs that have gone through the ringer, then we will bring forward a patch pack, which has like 3 or 4 patches of different designs that y'all can buy as a set, which once again makes shipping costs logical due to the price of the product. So that's what we've been thinking of doing. That's kind of 2 ideas that we have at the moment. Let us know which one y'all would like to see the most, if any, because I don't really know, like, beyond that point, beyond those 2 ideas, we don't really know what we could do to make it reasonable to get that out to international viewers, but we would love to be able to try and make that possible. So if any of y'all are on board with any of those ideas, let us know, and we will see about trying to implement one or the other. But
we've got an emergency plan in place. That's a possibility. It's not something that we're really wild about doing, because it could mean us taking a big loss, which is obviously, when you run a store, you're not trying to take losses. But, I'm going to talk it over the enforcer in the background and see if maybe we can do something that might cause us to take a few losses, but to make the international audience happy to be able to get the patches out, we might do it. But I got to talk it over with the enforcer first and see if he's good with it as well.
And also, I saw someone, I'll explain this really quickly. Someone said, why not send a bunch to one viewer and then have them send individual patches out to those in their region? I will tell y'all a story of something that happened with one of the LSA flags that has kind of led me to believe that may not be the greatest idea. There was a viewer who said, yeah, if you send me an LSA flag, I will get it to Ukraine. Like, I'm going over there, so, like, just give me one and I'll take it over there. And so I said, oh, well, actually, Matthew and me, but we're both like, oh, that's great. Like, we could get another LSA flag over to Ukraine. So we give this guy, well, he buys a flag, and then we give him one for free, and that's the one that's supposed to be going to Ukraine. And then once the guy gets the flag, he's like, hey, yeah, getting to Ukraine is kind of expensive. Could you give me like $5,000 so I can go buy airplane tickets? And then we were like, wait a minute, are you trying to fleece us right now? And the guy was like, no, not at all. It's just, it's so expensive. Could you just give me a couple of grand? And we were like, you just fleeced us for a free flag and you're trying to get airplane tickets. And we never know if that would happen in another instance because someone randomly could come forward and be like, hey, like I would love to take all the patches on for Europe, and then we give like 200 or so of them to that one person, and then they go, yeah, I don't think I have the time to do this, and then they do something like that, and then we'll be screwed. We'll have given away 200 patches pretty much for free, and then no one else will get a patch either. So that's kind of something that we have to keep in mind when doing stuff like that, is that we probably wouldn't have a good running record with that person. We probably wouldn't know them too well, and then we're kind of playing a 50-50 chance of just sending a load of stuff to them and it disappears or something along those lines. But with that, I hope that does address that. Also, a whole bunch of people are like, that was crazy. You wouldn't believe it. That guy actually tried to make us feel like a piece of crap because we said, dude, you said you could go to Ukraine. We're not giving you $5,000 for airplane tickets. And then the guy was like, you're a piece of shit because the guy was like saying, I'm a veteran and everything. You owe this to me. And we're like, we don't owe you anything. Like, you said you could get there on your own and you were going to go there. And that's why you got the free flag. Like, we're not going to pay for your airline. And then I was telling Maddie, I was like, what's next? He gets to Ukraine, like after we pay $5,000 for his airplane tickets, and then he says, yeah, I actually don't have enough money for hotels, so you need to pay for my stay over here. And then we pretty much pay for this guy to have a vacation. It's like, no, I'm not.
Don't worry. Don't worry though, because we sent an extra one to BC Skyman, and along with the bandages that are being sent to Ukraine, that flag is being sent as well, an extra one that we sent along with his other package. So there is a flag still getting to Ukraine. It won't be going to Zelensky, that one won't. We have a separate one that will be going to Zelensky, hopefully, if we can make it actually get to his place or not. I don't know. But there's a multiple flags still going to Ukraine, so it's still going to be happening.
And so with that, I hope that does address that into things fairly well. And also someone said, did you get the flag back? Nope. We just had to take it as a loss. Because the way that whole thing ended with the guy like trying to violently cuss us out because we weren't willing to go along with the scam, I had a feeling we probably were never going to see those flags again. So 2 of them kind of were just scratched off as losses. Like they probably were burned or thrown away or something. But anyways, with that, you can still get an LSA t-shirt and a patch. Hey! And also, thank you so much for the incredible, massive support, Snow White, and helping this channel keep running. Thank you so much for enjoying these merch designs, and we will make sure to send this directly to the live chat. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so the live chat question here is going to go to Juana McIntosh, I believe it said, who said, did they target civilians or military, or did they hit military targets? Because if then, it's fine.
From what I heard, they mostly struck military targets in Belgorod, but right now we don't have any confirmation of strike locations because this happened so recently. The daylight hasn't broken for normal people to go out and start taking videos and pictures of what's been hit. So at the moment, we don't know exactly what's been hit in Belgorod. We just know that we've heard that military targets have been hit, and we are assuming that that is true until proven otherwise, considering that that statement came out from Ukrainian sources today. And so with that, I hope that does address that live chat the best I can. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, Snow White. That is unbelievable support. We don't even deserve support like that. But I thank you massively for enjoying this channel so much and finding it that worthwhile to support, because folks like you help us to make this thing a possibility and help us to keep this thing running day in and day out. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to a return of a channel legend. It is Mark the Kinetic Possum, formerly the incompetent drone operator, but now he's a kinetic possum. He's got that motion, and he's a possum. Thank you very much, Mark, for the $100 support. And he said the French have woke fish. Fight among yourselves. Oh, no.
Wait. No, don't do that. No. The freaking frogs. And also, by the way, thank you for the huge amount of support, Mark, the Kinetic Possum. And that's actually something I learned in college. I actually learned that in I believe it was an ecology class. It was something like that. It was an environmental science class. That's what it was. And they actually talked about river pollution, pH from fertilizers turning into runoff and rainwater, and then filling the rivers. And then also on top of that, raw human sewage entering some of the major rivers like the Seine, the Thames, and the Potomac, among many other rivers like the Hudson River in New York. And the toxicity, I don't know what it was. I forgot how the exact explanation works, but the toxicity is so bad that it actually sets off certain hormones in some fish which can actually change their sex from male to female or female to male and vice versa, which is a really interesting thing because apparently that kind of toxicity actually does that pretty regularly, especially to some fish some fish that can reproduce asexually, with like the clownfish. Like many people don't know that. Like if a clownfish ideally will mate, talking about environmental science and stuff, a clownfish will mate naturally with a male and female, but if there is no female present, the male can actually grow female reproductive organs and mate with itself and actually produce an entire litter of eggs on its own. And so some fish naturally can do that, but specifically with some of these fish that have that kind of like an asexual nature to them where they can do that, the pollution in the river actually triggers or sets off their hormones where they unnaturally conduct that shift. Which is something that a lot of environmental scientists have noted in some of the most polluted rivers in the world, and that's not just a specific thing endemic to the West. It's specific really to any heavily polluted river around the world, in Asia, in the Indian subcontinent, here in Europe, in the North America, in Latin America, really anywhere. And it's a very interesting thing to hear how badly this kind of pollution can destroy rivers. Like the Seine is completely destroyed. I mean, a natural ecosystem existing in the Seine is completely impossible. Only the most hardy and most really unsavory kinds of creatures live in the Seine River at this point due to the severe pollution that it's suffered for decades, if not really centuries at this point, which is a really interesting thing about pollution and all that kind of stuff, because, so people can be on whatever metric they want about other kinds of things involving environmental science, which I can't talk about because it might move into a domestical political sphere. But as far as actual pollution goes, pollution has been proven many, many times, like this example right here with the Seine, to have extremely negative consequences on the surrounding ecosystem, including the river going through the middle of Paris. But then again, at the same time, it's like one would naturally assume that the Seine River is polluted. There are 8 million people living on the banks of the Seine River, so why in the world would it not be polluted? But anyways, with that, I hope that does address it. Also, Old Man Gibb is right. The Hudson River is using massive oyster beds to clean up the river. And another cool thing is that actually a lot of water filtration centers in Europe actually use oysters to test the quality of their water, because a lot of people also don't know this. Oysters only open when the water is non-polluted. When it's actually clean, they will open and filter. But if the water is too polluted or it becomes too silty or anything like that, the water conditions aren't favorable, the oyster will actually shut. And so what some European water treatment plants have done is that they'll set up 4 oysters, and all of them have the special kind of a magnetic clamp to the top of their shell that allows for an electrical circuit to be made, so that way if they close the shell, they break the circuit, and the water flow from that specific source is cut off, because apparently it must be contaminated at that point, and then a water inspector goes out to find out what the problem is with the water, and what kind of filtration or purification efforts need to be made to improve the quality. So that's actually another really cool rabbit hole thing about water quality and everything, because Water has an entire science around it about the purity of water, the cleanliness, the filtration, the purification processes, and everything else. It's actually a really big business around the world. And believe it or not, a lot of people kind of take this for granted. Most water in the world, even fresh water, is completely undrinkable, even if it isn't being touched by human sources, because animals usually pollute water, and you can find a heavy amount of E. coli in most water. It's actually deadly to drink water most times in a raw, unfiltered, or unpurified form. And through most of history, most people never drank water. Most people drink some kind of a fermented drink. That's why alcoholic beverages historically were far more popular than really anything else, because the alcohol kills any germs in the water, and not only that, the fermentation and boiling process of most alcohols also ended up killing off most diseases, pathogens, and anything else found in water. So in the modern day, it's kind of taken as a luxury that you're able to get water out of the tap, and a lot of people say that the water quality is always dropping, but the reality is the water quality is already at rock bottom. It's a constant battle to make water drinkable at all. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. Kind of a really cool rabbit hole about all of that, but still pretty neat. I hope y'all really enjoyed that. But still, thank you so much once again for the massive support, Mark the Kinetic Possum, and welcome back. It is great to see you back in the live chat again. It's great to have you here tonight, and thank you for throwing in a really funny super chat that I could rabbit hole a lot on, and thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible and help us to keep this thing running day in and day out. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address it the best I possibly can. And with that, we are on to the last question of the segment, and then we're going to be moving right back into the Ukraine war news.
All right, and this one is going to go to Thomas Hansen, who threw in a $50 donation. And huge shout out to Thomas for that support. He said, "Hi, Mr. Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, and what's your thoughts on why the Gripen jet was halted for delivery to Ukraine? And is it mostly politics or maybe getting to sell military material like the F-16? And the Russians mostly come at night, mostly."
The Russians come at it, and the freaks come at it. But beyond that, moving on from that, a good question about the Gripen. The Gripen was halted, from what we understand, due to most likely political issues, because from what I understand, the Swedish were going to lease the aircraft to Ukraine. They weren't going to give them to Ukraine. And the F-16s, from what I understand, are being given to Ukraine. And so apparently there is something that's going on in the background that is concerning European nations spending-wise, as far as what's going on with providing the F-16. Maybe logistics will end up being pretty costly for Ukraine, because they'll probably have to pay for that out of pocket. So they said, hold off on the Gripens, because they will not be able to afford the leases and maintenance of those aircraft on top of the F-16s, and do something else. And we already saw that they did do something else, which is very interesting. They are going to be providing the first AWACS that Ukraine will ever have in history. And they are some kind of a Saab aircraft with a special kind of radar that can look out pretty much 250 miles in each direction, to the left and right of the aircraft, and a 120-degree arc, which is a it's an incredibly competent AWACS system. So I think for that reason, it's not that they don't want the Swedish to provide them with aircraft, it's just that they don't want them to provide them with the Gripen. And I think it's most likely for spending issues down the road, and European countries are like, Ukraine will take it on, it's just that they won't be able to afford it, so don't give it to them now. Give them AWACS instead as a replacement, because that will help out with conducting air missions with the F-16s that are already going to be sent. Sending Gripens would kind of be redundant at this point. That may be what they said. I'm not entirely sure, though. But that would be my best guess. And also, Maddie, can you reread that again to make sure I covered every single point in it?
Let's see. He said, the thoughts on why the Gripen jet was halted, and is it mostly politics or getting to sell military material like the F-16?
Okay, so actually I did address that incredibly well. And so thank you so much once again for the massive support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope I was able to address that the best I can, or at least give my best logical explanations possible for why this kind of odd decision is being made at the moment. But I hope this was able to give at least a good footing on where to start on wondering why in the world the Gripens were denied to enter Ukraine, and Sweden then adhered to that request by other European countries. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for that incredible support. Thank you to all three of y'all, and thank you to everyone else, because we will be getting to all of y'all in the question segment a little bit later on in the night. And so with that, it is now time for us to move on into Ukraine and into our location unknown. So we don't have that many, but we were able to see that one Ukrainian prisoner of war that has returned from captivity just today, of course, showed very clear signs of malnutrition, once again showing that torture within Russian prisoner of war camps of many varying kinds is quite visible. We can also see bruises to his left arm as well, possibly showing another form of torture, but nevertheless, we can see that a lot of Ukrainian soldiers that have been captured are being tortured extensively by their captors, which is an incredibly terrible thing to see, but nevertheless very, very important to know and understand understand why the Ukrainians cannot give up in the fight and why Ukrainians really can't even surrender on the front lines, because the torture that they receive is extremely strenuous and very tough to really get through. But moving on from that and into our next bit, we also get to see some Ukrainian forces actually in training. I don't know why I put Russians in training. I guess I was thinking about typing Russian loss report, but we can see the Ukrainians right here. All of them, interestingly enough, are using from what I can tell, ATACMS, which are not the modern AK-74 that we've seen Ukraine using. They're a little bit of an older system, but still pretty good. I'm not going to diss on the ATACMS. They're actually pretty good, even in the modern day. But we can see them moving through foxholes, it appears, and maybe some trench works. We can also see this guy running the classic. Is that a mini-me? Like, hang on.
That's clean, is what that is. Also, he's wearing like a stadium seat butt pad thing. That's pretty comfortable looking.
Okay, so folks have got to help me out with this. It looks like an FN mini-me, but it doesn't. You know, what is that? I'm raking my brain so hard. What is this machine gun? I'll show y'all a mini-me really quickly, because it's actually called the M249 in U.S. service. It's called the SAW, but it's not that. It's something different, and I can't come up with it. But this is the mini-me right here. It's made by FN, which I think is just absolutely incredible, because I love FN. I think they're a great company. But it's not a mini-me. I don't know what the hell this thing is, but it is drippy. I will say that machine gun's got style. And someone said it's an MG240. So thank you, JC9. And let's go look at that. MG240. Is it? Well, maybe. Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. Let me look at a couple of pictures and double check. Oh yeah, you're dead on the nail. Thank you so much for putting that in. It's an M240 G, and so that is exactly what it is. But that is still really nice. I absolutely like the look of it. Very drippy, very nice, and I think it's a good machine gun. I think it looks really good, at least. But moving on from that, we can also see them moving a BMP-2 around in the training field, and those are all the pictures we have. But still really cool to see the 150th Separate Mechanized Brigade of the Ukrainian Army conducting a little bit of training and doing their thing. Meanwhile, the Russians are showing that they are getting absolutely no training in the casualty report. Oh my lord!
Oh no! Oh wow! Oh yes! 11 Bobcats. That's very good to see right there. Also, by the way, I know I'm always like Googling over the Bobcat losses, but the vehicle losses and the tank losses are going hard these days. Like, damn! Like, how many can Ukraine knock out in a day? I think that's the new question.
Dude, it's insane, man. 1,390 Russian troops wounded and killed over the past 24 hours. 22 armored personnel carriers, 56 supply trucks, 18 main battle tanks, 39 artillery pieces, 55 drones, 7 cruise missiles, and 11 special equipment vehicles. It is absolutely insane to see these kinds of losses. Truly nuts. I can't even really comprehend losses like these anymore. They are just so high. And it looks like the Ukrainian armed forces are once again conducting, like we say almost every day of the week now, wildly successful defensive efforts in Kharkiv, in Avdiivka, and Bakhmut, and are inflicting the highest casualties on a daily basis that we've seen on average over the course of the entire war. And so moving on from that, it's now time for us to actually get to those front lines up in the area of Vovchansk. And we were able to see today that apparently, according to the pictures that we can see from the 15th Motorized Rifle Battalion, which we do not have anymore, we were able to hear that an African mercenary died in the Kharkiv Oblast. And also, if you had taken a look at the 15th Mechanized Brigade picture, which sadly we weren't able to, it appears to be very mercenary heavy from what we can tell. And this is once again showing us that the Russian forces in this area are very poorly trained. And this, allow me to rant for a quick moment, everyone. I saw, by great misfortune, a CNN clip on YouTube. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll take a look. This was literally yesterday. I guess I'll take a look at what they're doing. And so they said, Lipsy, it's a town that the Ukrainians just can't afford the Russians to take. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, they could. I mean, it's not like it's a major city or anything. And so then they go, the Ukrainians are hard-pressed. They're going up against Russia's greatest fighters, the most elite. And I was like, where is he getting that from? And then they said, and not only that, the Ukrainians are completely under-equipped, ammunition-wise and equipment-wise. They are using this old Soviet gun that they captured from the Russians, and they are using French mortar rounds in the gun to try and shoot with. the situation for the Ukrainian army is incredibly pitiful, and they're hardly holding on. And I was like, where the hell has this guy been? It's like, they completely stopped this offensive as of 7 days ago by the time this report came out from this guy. And I'm like, if they were doing poorly, the Russians would be pushing them back, and they're not. And to prove that, here is today's map, which I will grab for all of y'all very happily to show this. Here is today's map on the 30th. Here's the 29th, the 28th, the 27th, the 26th, the 25th, the 24th, the 23rd. The last time a frontline movement was had was on the 23rd, and even at that, the Ukrainians retook a small part of ground. So, going off of that, I don't even know what in the world that guy was talking about. And I gotta say, I hate CNN, I hate Fox, I hate all of the major news organizations, because all of them do their reports like that. So when you go to CNN, it's like watching that Mickey Mouse cartoon where they go home. It's like the giant beanstalk cartoon, and they get the loaf of bread and they're cutting it so thin the bread's like see-through. That's like what CNN does whenever they report on this war. They'll go up there and they'll be like, "It's absolutely pitiful. The Russians are using their finest mercenaries from Africa with absolutely no training, and the Ukrainians are absolutely spent. Somehow they're holding them back for about 2 weeks at this point, but there's just nothing more that can really be done." And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, I don't even know where you're coming from, because everything that we're seeing is showing that the Ukrainians are doing quite well in this front line. Of course, every battle is difficult. I mean, people are going to get wounded, people are going to get killed. It's a war. So it's not like it's going to be a cakewalk out there in reality, but it's stupid to go out there and make every single thing a crying fest, and also try and make everything look as bad as worse as it can be. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's stupid, because then you don't even see that in other instances. Like, I'll show y'all war footage, and you will see the Ukrainian police, which at best are a light infantry force, wiping the floor against Russian army groups in Vovchansk. Like, you're actually seeing that. Like, it's an actual video. It's not just some guy with a British accent working for CNN saying something really that doesn't have any backing to it at all, rather than just emotional flair and trying to pull at your heartstrings. It's actual proof. It's video proof of what's going on. And it just annoys me so much when people come on this channel that are really well-intentioned, and they want to listen to news from everywhere, and they listen to news from places like CNN and Fox, and they believe that that's really the case of this, or of these crying bitching fests that are run on CNN and Fox. And then they come on here to this show, and then they go, "I heard on CNN today it's going terribly. Why in the world are you not saying the same?" It's because I'm not living in La La Land on CNN and Fox just trying to run a stupid story to get clicks. Like, we're actually trying to cover real news here. And it's such a huge disconnect when I see it. And I'm like, that's just not the story at all. And they also act like every time they show Ukrainian soldiers, they make sure that if they show any footage of them, they are either not smiling or they look pissed. Every time. They never show the clips of Ukrainian soldiers that have high morale, that are laughing and joking, that we show on this channel. Never. They never try and show that side of stuff. They always just show the negative, because that's what really gets people to watch their show, is just living in misery for the most part. But anyways,
Man, they
go ahead.
all the media companies know their target audience, and CNN has identified their target audience, and they know exactly how to sell certain stories to them. And I won't go any further than that.
It's not just CNN, because I know what you're getting at. You're like, CNN viewers are whiny babies. Fox News viewers are whiny babies as well. All of them are. Like, they love to hear stories that make them whine and cry and moan and groan. Like, there's never a story on any of those news networks that makes you go, wow, things are really looking up. Like those news companies have understood at this point, our audience are a bunch of whiny crybabies, and they want to hear whiny crybaby crap. So let's just sell them whiny crybaby crap. Like they never go.
I've noticed though that on CNN they like to appeal to like the victimhood mindset, and then on Fox they like to appeal to like anger, like people that are super angry. They kind of like feed that anger, and then CNN kind of does the opposite. They feed like the victimhood story. Like, it's like completely opposite things, and either Fox or CNN fits someone's like motive and mindset out there, so they grab their own audiences.
Yeah, but it's all negative. Like it doesn't like the approaches. You're absolutely dead on. It's just negative though. There's never a positive story to be had. Like, when is the last time that y'all actually heard Fox or CNN, which are two of the largest news networks in this country? Fox is actually the largest by the ratings. When in the world have y'all ever heard them put out a positive story, not just about Ukraine, but anything? They never have. I've never heard a positive story put out by any of them. All they do is live off of outrage or fear that you're going to be the victim, one or the other. And it's just so annoying. I would be quite honest with y'all. I would not watch CNN or Fox. If y'all are watching it, I wouldn't. It's just not good news. And I believe that by y'all not watching, their ratings will eventually drop, and they'll eventually have to work on actually making good news, which shows the good, bad, and the ugly, which we try and do on this channel as well a little bit. But moving on from that and into Vovchansk, we did get to see a little United 24 video that was made today about the battle for Kharkiv. And so, without further ado, here's the clip.
War has returned to Kharkiv. Since Russia started its offensive on the region on May 10, the drive from Ukraine's second largest city to the front line is only around 20 minutes. For this report, we are embedding with the Khartia Brigade. On May 11th, one day after Russia sent thousands of troops over the border, they were deployed to Liptsi. Now, it's the last village before enemy lines. So we drove without lights and finally entered a basement here close to the front line. This is a sort of small command post, and now we're waiting until the air is clear to move on to the position. The commander asks us to apply blue tape so that Ukrainian snipers don't mistake us for Russians trying to infiltrate the trenches. It's this kind of war.
They are flying all the time, observing the settlement and all our movements.
It's time to go. We head to the car and drive through what's left of the village. Our goal, the zero line. The Ukrainians hold this side of the hill. On the other, separated by a small river, are the Russians.
Yeah, that's well. Hot Dog Man would be excited hearing that.
We enter the trench and move to the forwardmost position. It's the kind of place where you can die at any second.
Противник, он лісок. І вправо від ліска, то вже там противник повністю.
So here on the zero line, you can hear gun battles all the time. The positions, they are new, as you can see. You know, people build concrete blocks here and fortified, but it helps obviously. But soldiers don't feel that it's enough. So even though the situation is stabilized, it's still extremely dangerous, and in the end, it's volatile. Nobody knows what will happen. See, it's costing the guys a lot of energy and bravery to be here. It's definitely, you can see it in their faces.
The situation is difficult. The enemy fire is intense. They are trying to break through our lines, trying to find a weak spot on this territory. But we are managing to stop the enemy. They haven't broken through. There's only constant shelling and nothing else.
Тільки обстріли і більше. From here, we move to the back part of the trench. It's the resting position. Our first interview is interrupted by glide bombs.
На позиціях. Щас ближче підійди, бо можуть осколки. Закрой док.
But, in the typical Ukrainian way, even in the darkest of times, humor and strength prevail.
See, this is kind of reporting that
Хлопці, приєднуйтеся до нас. Приєднуйтеся. Не так то чорт страшен, як його описують.
See, this guy, look at this, man. Hang on. That guy even knows what CNN is saying. He's like, he literally said, it's not as scary here as they say it is.
Also, man, this is why the Ukrainians actually are going to win this war, is because you cannot instill like good morale in people just like by snapping your fingers. It doesn't work like that. It takes a lot of effort to make sure your troops are in good morale and good spirits. The Ukrainians throughout the entire war, no matter what odds they're facing, are always in positive spirits, no matter what. The Russians can barely even hang on and simply survive and get food, much less keep their morale high. And the Russians don't give a damn if their morale's high or not. They simply need them as fodder for the cannon. So that's why Ukraine's going to win, I'm telling you.
I'm telling you what, man, I agree with that completely about the morale.
And indeed, it is not all bad. Although the new offensive on the Kharkiv region has caused a lot of upheaval and forced Ukraine to spread its army and resources over a larger front line, brigades like Khartia, through fast deployment and reaction, have managed to contain further damage, for now.
At the moment, the situation has changed for the better. We have halted the offensive. The enemy isn't advancing like before. When our brigade took up positions here, there were assaults. And now they are looking for weak spots in the flanks.
Правильно, старий діду, так. Шукати слабкі місця. Тобто тут вони вже не так йдуть на прорив.
But as we drive home, the air is nonetheless filled with uncertainty. What happens in the long run will depend on many factors, what Russia does, and also how the global community reacts. Ukraine will need much more resources to continue its fight for survival. One thing is for sure though, Kharkiv will continue fighting. And it won't be the first time they fight off an enemy that is not only larger in numbers, but doesn't refrain from launching daily brutal attacks against millions of civilians trying to live their lives in peace.
And that's the end of that video from United 24, but once again showing a little bit about what's going on in the area of Vovchansk. Moving on from that, we do have something that we have heard a little bit. Germany's Scholz has warned not to allow Ukraine to support to cause a Russia versus NATO war. And a lot of people have are wondering, do you agree with that or do you not agree with that? Some people are saying that, no, all limitations are off now. Some people are saying that the West needs to be careful. And some people are saying that they just need to use common sense. And Matthew, what are people saying about it? What are you thinking about it?
So it looks like about 42% believe that all limitations are off now, and that Germany's Scholz statement about allowing Ukraine support to cause a Russia versus NATO war is simply fear-mongering, while 26% said the West must be careful and they agree with Scholz, and that 28% said just simply use common sense. And on this one, honestly, I'm with the 28%. Just simply use common sense. We need to support Ukraine, but we don't need to go too far down the road where we're literally trying to provoke World War III. In my opinion, the only thing I've seen thus far that seems to indicate that it might be trying to provoke World War III is attacking those over-the-radar systems or over-the-horizon radar systems that are used by Russia for nuclear deterrence. That's the only thing I would say was probably not a wise move, but outside of that, I would say it's pretty much common sense at this point, because of course the U.S. and Germany allowing Ukraine to use their weapons to strike on mainland Russia, and also enforce, I can hear typing, like a lot of it going on in the background.
Oh, sorry.
But by letting all those weapons be used by Ukraine on Russian soil, that to me is using common sense, because Russia is endlessly killing civilians in Ukraine. So why is the West not going to allow Ukraine to do the same? That makes sense. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that all limitations are mostly off, in my opinion, because considering that the Ukrainians are fighting a war, they are being provided the weapons, and while they are Western weapons, they're using them on their own. That gives them the ability to really do whatever they want. No one can really help that the weapons are made in Western countries. There are weapons that Ukraine is being provided, and they can use them really however they please. I don't think it will really cause a Russia-NATO war. Of course, diplomatic tensions will be incredibly high. Naturally, that will happen. But beyond that, I do not think it's going to cause any kind of a major backlash because of it. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And moving on into our next clip in Vovchansk, we were able to see a view of the city again today, showing off the damage that has been caused over the recent fighting, and also showing that the Ukrainian counteroffensive has pushed the Russians on up and out of the central area of the city. And also another note, while we're watching this footage, BC Scamming, we will make sure to try and give another shout out for the Lucamed T Plus bandages, and I'll also be sending some of my own. And so hopefully that'll help out a little bit. Obviously, I hear that you still need a couple of hundred bandages still, and I'll be making sure to try and send my own. And also, I hope that everyone else helps out as well. And BC Scamming, if you want to plug that in the chat, make sure to do that. Feel more than free to do that in the live chat so that way people can know about it and people can reach out to you and try and send those bandages your way so that way Yuri can send them, will bring them over with them to Ukraine and help out those soldiers a little bit more. We see here them showing the rest of the city of Vovchansk. And of course, the damage is incredibly severe. We see them continuing to show the surrounding areas of the city. They're actually looking east at this point and starting to look southeast. And we can see the central hospital right down there actually being shelled at the moment. The Central Hospital really doesn't look the way it used to at the beginning of the battle. It has practically been completely destroyed at this point. Only the remaining outer walls appear to be standing, but everything else inside has collapsed due to fire damage. Well, you see many such cases throughout the entirety of the city, as we're seeing that the destruction has really reached every single city block, as the battle for the city has been incredibly severe, with Ukrainian and Russian forces going head-to-head, and finally Ukrainian forces pushing the Russians mostly out of this area of the city, and now further northwards and towards the meatpacking plant. You can also see a large amount of artillery shell holes in the top of this roof right here, which is pretty interesting to see, kind of rare actually. But with that, that's the end of that clip, and very interesting to see the kind of damage that has been caused to Vovchansk from recent battles. Moving on from that and into the northeastern area, we were also able to see that a Mista-S SPG of the Russian artillery forces was destroyed today. Wow, that was really quick. That was incredibly quick. Toasty.
Roasted.
Rusted blade. But moving on from that, and on into our next clip, we also got to see Ukrainian forces continuing the defense of Toyny. No, we're not having Mr. Bombastic, something fantastic on the show. We're muting that, but we can see the Ukrainians here engaging in firefights against the Russians. That appears to actually be something like an anti-aircraft gun or something. The mounts were very weird for that. But anyways, we see them continuing to fire. Ooh! And that's the end of the clip, but very nice to see. And moving on from that and on into our next clip, we were also able to see the 3rd Brigade operating near Turney as well in this clip.
Все, проходимо. Так що, зайдемо?
And we can see the Ukrainian forces advancing through the trenches and engaging in some very dark trench warfare. I mean, it's pitch black in this place. But that ain't stopping them. They're still going.
Бося, граната.
We now see them lobbing a grenade into the dark opening.
Номер части.
Ну вот, 488, наверное, я больше ничего не знаю. Я 2 дня здесь.
Now see them having a conversation at the opening of this dugout.
Ты. Поехали. И все. Куда? На войну. Как на войну?
И контракт не подписывал?
Заставили? Я ж судимый.
Шторм Z?
Всех.
Чи всех, понятно.
Приезжают прям, забирают оттуда. Это пиздец.
Just a nice, calm conversation in a war
Кто
zone.
освобождается, им повестку в руки.
Что это?
I like how he never drops a cigarette.
У меня семья.
Yeah,
я
he just
куда-то
chilling.
поехал. Позвонить.
Бачишь, какая страна хорошая. Прикрываешь его. А ну, давай, дайте тогда дорогу, пройдем.
Да. Сейчас я ему закину.
We hear some artillery explosions in the distance.
Фух, добрий день. Блядь, дай спуститься. Нет, там нормально.
We see a good bit of Ukrainian troops hanging out in this trench. And we see the M113 coming by, and they're hopping on
Ну,
in.
мішків тут немає. Подивись, де мішки знаходяться. Так, є БК тут в них.
Пімка бачу. А то в ящику
Я калаху бачу.
зеленому що ящик.
Ти ж тільки на людей на наводі, а то розріжеш пополам.
Тобі самотньо. Нема чим зайнятися. Вривайся в третю штурмову.
And that's the end of the clip. But it looks like they're all having fun. Moving on from that and into our next clip a little bit further down the lines, and in Bakhmut, we were also able to see a 93rd Brigade T-80 BVM, which is pretty cool. Check that out. Isn't that thing cool? That thing is pretty
It's so
cool.
clean.
Man, it's so clean. It's so sleek. Look at that thing. It's really cool looking, I'm not going to lie. But nice to see that they're using a T-80 BVM. And moving on from that and down to the area around Pantelemonivka, we were able to see some destroyed equipment down here as well. We're going to be viewing that, but they're just driving on around it. And it appears to be a destroyed supply truck of some sort. Terrible to see. Terrible. Terrible. But moving on from that and on into our next clip in the Avdiivka area near Otratine, we also got to see them knocking out a T-90M. There it is. And the Russians are like, oh, bled, Papa, we have to run. And there they go. They are booking it. Oh, and here comes the FPV.
Yeah, bliat. Oh, he got away.
Oh,
Oh, man, he did that move like he got a shrapnel in the butt or something like that. He went,
Dude, he went, something bit me. There he goes. They're like, what bit you? He's like, bled, I don't know.
he said, how fun do you bliat to find out what happened? Oh, man, what
come
the hell
over
is
here.
going on?
What's going on with Romania? But we can see the FPV drone coming in to knock this T-90M on out. And there it goes. It's lining up. Look at it. It's getting closer.
Oh, what's Romania saying?
Ew, yuck. Ew. Oh, critical detonation.
Wow,
Whoosh.
that's an inferno.
Wow. Oh, man. What's Romania have to say about this?
Yeah. Oh, that Twitter bullshit.
Oh, that freaking Twitter bullshit. God dang.
Oh.
Man. And that tank is smoking. Wait, hang on. Why in the world? I'm doing two totally different laughs at the same time. Mr. Krabs. Hot dog man. He's getting roasted. Oh, waiter.
Mr. Squidward, Hot Dog Man's not a reporter.
No, he's not. But moving on from that, we also got to see the Ukrainians kept on trucking. I wish we could play the music. I'll give you a little snippet. The music was actually pretty good for this clip because they were just driving along and everything was blowing up around the MRAP. Look, first explosion, second explosion, MRAP still going. Dude, they are booking it. Third explosion, MRAP still rolling. This thing is run by the Chad driver. This is baby driver in this thing because it almost got blown up, I think, like 3 times, and it just kept on going. But moving on.
Those MRAPs are just freaking hunks of steel, especially those old style, like international ones like that,
Oh,
the
yeah.
top heavy type. Those things are like rolling like bank vaults, basically. That's why they're so top heavy and easy to roll over, is how heavy they are.
Dude, I'm telling you what, man. They're cool, though. I respect them. And moving on from that, we also got to see that the 2S5 Gyansen S was destroyed as well. Ooh, and they loaded it up on the back of a truck and everything. Rip. But moving on from that, and on further down the line and into the area of the southern front near Staromayorsk, we were also able to see the Ukrainians repelling a Russian attack down here near Rozhine. Check it out. They got that Bear Grylls Ultimate Survival music running here as they walk out of the basement, much like we do, and pointing at the Russian forces in the distance. They're like, look, they're over there. They blow them up. And here they come. Look, there they are. I'm not kidding. They're actually on their way. Oh no, and they already got bogged down. Aw. This is terrible. Aw, man.
You did it.
Yeah, I was going, aw. I was about to do like a joke, and then I was like, wait a minute, I gotta do the obligatory, aw, man. And now they're gonna fire an RPG at him. And I don't know if that was the RPG. That was a fair. Oh, no, there's the RPG right on the tank. Wow, very accurate with that. Oh, and it's cooking. Call this thing Sweet Baby Ray's because you be putting it on average roasted. We see another Russian vehicle here driving through a field, and it gets hit twice, actually, in like 2 seconds, and it immediately begins to cook up. Oh, I think... Oh, the fuel tank's on fire. Now, that's new. I've never seen that one before. I mean, the Russians are just getting obliterated. By the way, folks, we're only like 60 subscribers away from 218,000. So if you're new to this channel and you subscribe right now, you might be your 218,000 subscriber. You never know. But with that, I hope that doesn't address that well. Just to address it. But we can see the Russians continuing to just get flayed. Oh, that was a little strong of an explosion. A little cooked.
Oh, he's laying down the fire.
Man,
He's not messing around.
Man, he putting down that heat. We need more power packs. That's what he's about to say, man.
We want fresh ones for the phasers.
We see them down here in the basement. Great things happen in basements. And with that, that's the end of that clip right there. Wonderful to see that they were doing their work in Rozhine to stop that Russian assault. And without further ado, it's time for us to move on to the air defense report. It was a little bit of a small one last night, but they were able to shoot down 4 Shahed drones and 1 Iskander-K missile. Not bad. So moving on from that, it's now time for us to get on to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day... Oh, wait a minute, let me go to YouTube. Hang on, everyone. It says that he doesn't have one. I'm not believing that. He always has one. There's just no way. We have to go to the President of Ukraine's YouTube channel. President of Ukraine YouTube channel. There we go. We pulled it up. He's got 328,000 subscribers. We're really close. But let me click on that, and let me go over here, and let me go to his videos, and let's see here. He put this up a day ago. What about this today? Okay, so he's got one today. It's got a translator off to the side, but that ought to be fine. Let's see here. So.
Вам, пане Ульфе, пане прем'єр-міністре.
Okay, so we are not going to be watching the speech because not only does it have a translator off to the side, which I've seen a lot of people complain is fairly distracting, it also has a translator translating the speech into a whole other language that isn't Ukrainian, but it's also not English. So we are not going to be watching the speech from President Zelensky tonight due to all the translation issues. So, with that, we are moving on to the second segment of this stream, where we get to talk to all of y'all. It's a fun segment, I assure you all. It's an incredibly fun segment, because we get to talk about whatever y'all want to talk about. And it looks like a lot of people are talking about what's going on with the Paris Olympics right now. And Matthew, what are people saying about that, and what are you thinking about it?
And we're now moving on to our last question segment of the night. And the current poll question that's running says France captured a Chechen, of all things, plotting to attack the Olympics. And the question is it too dangerous to hold the Olympics this year? 68% said no, it's not, and do not bend to the terrorist will. And 21% said yes, the Olympics are too risky right now. 5% said maybe make it televised only, and that might be a good solution. And I would say, like I kind of said earlier, I do not believe in bending to the will of the terrorists. The whole point of them trying to attack the place is to basically scare people off and prevent us from conducting normal business. That's the whole goal of the terrorists. And by canceling it, you're doing the best thing that the terrorists would like to happen, which is mess everything up. So I say do not do that. I would say hold the Olympics. Just make sure that the security is the most airtight security you've ever seen in history at any Olympics, because it is going to be very dangerous, and people need to be aware of that when they show up, that there could be some bad actors out in the crowd, because this year we have Russia and a lot of other enemy states looking to try to hurt the West, and nothing is more symbolic than the Olympics. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say I would not cancel the Olympics. It wouldn't be a good look, and not only that, it would show that the West is incredibly scared. Just ramp up the security a little bit, and things really, in my opinion, ought to be fine. Beyond that, Matthew kind of covered everything I was going to say, so there isn't really much more for me to add on that, but I would not cancel the Olympics. That I will say. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And Matthew, let us move on into them questions. What do we got?
So it's now time for questions. And the first one here is going to go to BC Skyman. He threw in a ton of support tonight, and he threw in a combined $140 donation. And huge thanks to you, BC, for that huge support. He said, we appreciate all the hard work from the enforcers. And thank you very much, BC.
Thank you.
He said, a big thanks to everyone who has sent Leukomed bandages. And we still have 30 days before Yuri goes to Ukraine. And we welcome anyone that can help us with more bandages. He says, which will be greatly appreciated. And Slav Ukraine. And BC's information, by the way, is in the announcement, which is pinned up at the top of the live chat right now. His email's up there, and also there is the full description of the bandages that he's taking to Ukraine, or that Yuri's taking to Ukraine, and BC is collecting them. So, once again, huge shout out to BC for taking that task on, because I'm sure he's received a lot of bandages at this point, even though he still needs more of them. It's probably been a very big task indeed, and huge shout out to BC for that. And Enforcer, what say you?
And a massive shout out to BC Skyman and amazing support that he's thrown in tonight. I got to thank you greatly for enjoying this channel so much and helping it to keep on running. And also, if y'all want to help BC Skyman, because he is trying to get a specific kind of bandage, we put all that up at the top of the live chat. Please do. It would help him out massively. They're going to be giving those directly to the soldiers of Ukraine. And that will help out greatly in life-saving efforts of making sure to save those soldiers' lives as best as we all possibly can as a part of the Lead Spring Army. I'm personally going to be sending in a lot of bandages. If I remember the cost correctly, I would think I was planning on sending in maybe like 300 or so, something like that. So I'll be sending a whole lot forward so that way they can help out in their own way. And I hope that we are able to get all of the bandages needed over to Ukraine. And I got to thank you massively once again for always sticking with this channel, BC Skyman, and also doing amazing things yourself. And also you and Yuri doing amazing things that are helping out Ukraine in physical ways, just like this channel does every Sunday night with the Sunday Night Fundraiser. It's truly incredible. And I got to thank you so much once again for being an absolute legend of the channel and helping this thing to keep on running, because folks like you make this possible, so that way we can shout out amazing and incredible projects like this one that you're undertaking right now. And hopefully we're able to get even more bandages off to you and help Yuri to go back to Ukraine, not only with a flag of the Lead Spring Army, but with a lot of bandages as well. And so with that, thank you so much once again for that massive support, BC Scum, and I hope I addressed that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to Thomas Hansen yet again, who put in a $50 donation once more. And huge shout out to Thomas once more for the combined $100 support. And by the way, there was a small misunderstanding. We won't get into it because we've sort of like let it go and everything like that. But there's a small misunderstanding with the last super chat. And Thomas, no hard feelings whatsoever. I might have misinterpreted something. And there was no need to throw in a second super chat to make up for it at all. But thank you very much for the kind words and also for the super chat. He said, another question, is the tide going to shift for Ukraine now that they can fire on targets in Russia from Sweden and Gothenburg?
I mean, they can fire from targets in Sweden.
No, no, he's from Sweden, Gothenburg. Not firing from
Oh,
Sweden.
I was about to be like, what? Like, wait a minute, reread that question again so that way now I can understand it.
He said, is the tide going to shift for Ukraine now that they can fire on targets in Russia?
I think the tide was already beginning to shift when we saw that the offensive into Kharkiv completely failed in the first few days, but this will certainly be making sure to dead set the change from being one that was kind of on the fence to being a really pro-Ukrainian change on in the future. Because allowing them to strike into Russia will make sure that surface-to-air missile sites can be knocked out. Russian missile launchers, such as Iskander missile launchers that are ground-based, will also be knocked out as well, along with many other kinds of facilities and logistical sites that could be knocked out and further hinder Russia's war effort. So I would say that this is certainly going to be turning the tide again in Ukraine's favor, and that is something that is massive and it is really good to hear. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and thank you so much once again for support, Thomas, and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible and help us to make this channel reality and help us to keep this thing running. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat is going to go to Cliff H, who put in a $22 donation. And huge shout out to Cliff as well for always supporting the channel. He said, with the weapons to be provided to Ukraine for the F-16s, how far away can Russian bombers be intercepted? And is that far enough to get them before, 1, glide bomb range of the front line, and 2, not to be shot down by AA?
Sadly, Russian strategic bombers would still be out of range when firing their missiles, as they usually fire them over the southern area of Krasnodar, and while they would be detected by Ukrainian AWACS aircraft that were airborne at the time, they would not be able to be shot down before they fired off their armaments. They would never really be able to get into anti-air range, even of a Patriot air battery. However, if there were Russian glide bomb aircraft, such as the Su-34 tactical bomber, those would be within AWACS range, and not only that, surface-to-air missile range. And not only that, the AWACS system is able to detect the Su-34s even when they're at lower altitudes for the most part, unless they're behind a mountain or some odd feature like that, which don't really exist in Ukraine, meaning that they will be able to help coordinate the Patriot missile fire to be a lot more accurate and hit aircraft even at lower levels. So the answer to that question is yes. As far as intercepting tactical bombers, Ukraine's anti-air efficiency will be increased with the introduction of the AWACS. However, with the strategic bombers would still be out of range when firing their weapons. So for them, there is no change. For the tactical bombers, the missions will become even more dangerous and will most likely result in even higher air casualty losses. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we've got a super chat this time from Andrea Fed, who put in a $20 donation. And huge shout out to Andrea for
Bless you
for that support. Excuse me. And thank you very much, Andrea. Sorry for that very rude sneeze in the middle of that super chat, but it was just uncontrollable. I couldn't control it. It was like just a compulsion. But Andrea said, has Belarus ever updated their pathetic military vehicles?
No.
Coming in hard with the roast.
Man, they're like, have they pathetic? I was like, dang. But let's see. Belarus military equipment. I said no really quickly because that's really the straightforward answer. But let me make sure to show that they have not. Makarov, my beloved. But anyways, moving on from that. Wait a minute, they got Mossberg 500s? No way. They got Mossberg.
Turned Southern.
Boy, I say, get off my porch. But anyways, they have, of course, the AKM, they have the AK-74, they have the AKS-74, and then they have the AKS-74U, aka the Crank, which is pretty cool. Oh, these are actually pretty rare.
That's a hell of a gun right there. I'm telling you, that's pretty cool. Like, see one of those in person, you've run across something that's very special.
Man, incredibly special. Maybe one day we'll be able to review such an amazing firearm like this. But for now, we will have to dream. But still, really cool. Really like these things. There also is the AS Val, which are very, very rare. And then you have the this thing, the 9A91, which is like a Val, but it's worse. Like, there's really no other way to explain that. Then they have the Venturez, which I think uses the same caliber as the Val, but it's It's really stupid. I don't really know how to explain this thing. It's like a pistol caliber sniper, which makes no damn sense. And I think it uses some kind of a Belarusian PSO scope. But anyways, beyond that, they also have the Dragunov, which is pretty freaking cool. And by the way, if y'all didn't know this, there was actually a Bulgarian, well, actually a Hungarian, sorry, Dragunov that is currently being imported to the United States right now, and Dragunovs are very highly sought after, that you can get for the low price of $9,900. Is that overpriced for this kind of a rifle? Certainly. Would I buy it?
Wait,
Hell
how
no.
much? Wait, how much? How much?
$9,900.
Oh, for the Dragunov?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's Barrett money.
I know, like it's insane. But you know what's even crazier is that Norinco Dragunovs, which are the really sought after ones in America, they go for $20,000 a piece.
Oh,
insane!
Oh, no,
like
no, not for a Soviet gun. No.
Absolutely insane. The only reason they're that much is for the collector's value, because beyond that, you could get better performance out of a Remington 700 than you would a Dragunov. I'm not even kidding. You just could. Like, you could, like, a Dragunov is effective in anywhere in between 800 to 1,200 yards. A Remington 700 with some slight modifications and way cheaper the cost than this thing could easily hit out to 1,200 yards. So why would you get a Dragunov when you get a Remington 700 and do better? Like, why? Like, it would make no sense. They also have a whole bunch of other kind of heavier snipers, like this thing that kind of looks a little bit like a Ukrainian sniper, the Alligator. Then they have a whole bunch of machine guns. The RPK-74 is a machine gun AK. It's pretty much just a long stroke piston AK machine gun. I hate the stocks, though, on these things. They look so stupid. It's literally like the chopping block that they put up back there. Don't really like it. Don't really dig it. But another cool one, I will say that this one's fairly cool, is the RPK, because I think most of them have drum mags, which is kind of neat, I suppose. But really no cool machine guns to speak of. Oh, yeah, they have the GP25, which is a rifle-mounted grenade launcher on an AK-74, which is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. I'll be honest with you. It's just hard. It's hard for me to get excited about the AK. It's a good gun for what it is, but it's just like the cheap gun that just everybody buys when they need to like do an uprising or revolution or something. I know it's war proven and all that good stuff, but you know, I get excited about the AR platform personally.
Wait a minute, man. Wait a minute. Hang on. Let me go get the one that everyone would get excited about. Yeah, the FAL. Oh baby, no one has any gripes about the FAL. I don't think.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's made by FN, isn't it?
Yeah, most of them were made by FN, but there was a couple of other companies that made them. Let's see, I forgot what company made them in Spain, because they had a completely different company that made them. I think it was Setme that made the Spanish FALs. And then let's see. I believe Infield actually made the British L1A1s, which were the SLRs, the self-loading rifles. But the FAL, like, y'all, like, come on, like, the AK and AR beef is one thing, but I feel like the FAL is detached from that beef. It just rises above. And it just stays up there. You know, it doesn't really touch the beef, because I think everyone can say that a battle rifle in 308, as good as the FAL, it's a really good gun for what it is. There's really nothing in the category that can compare. It's also really beautiful looking. Like, the lines on it are very sleek. I love how sharply angled the pistol grip is on the FAL. It just looks so sleek. And not only that, you can get 30-round mags for this thing, which are mental, and are really, really cool to look at. Like, it makes the thing look like a light machine gun at that point. But still,
now you know the gun that gets everybody really excited though it's a crowd pleaser, the HK416. That's where it's at. Like, yeah, but I love that one.
You know, it's just getting a little too mainstream though these days. The HK416, like, everyone uses the HK416 now. It just kind of feels a little outdone. Man. It is cool though, I will admit that, but I still feel like it's just a little outdone. You know. Like, it's all right.
But you just can't. It's like perfect proportions. It's got the really nice handguard on it. I love that. The whole build of HK is always tremendous, even though they try to basically rob the civilians blind out here. Hello. But if you can afford one, which sadly I've never been able to at this point, the thing is super well built. Like, all of HK's rifles are insanely well built. The build quality, they're a little on the heavy side, but to me, that's like the appeal of it. The thing is just like a tank.
hang on, I have to address something I saw in the chat. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to put this down. Someone said the G3 pictured here is by far on top. I am so sorry. I'm going to have to disagree. I don't really like the G3. I actually have had one, and I didn't really like it that much. It just... I don't know. It seemed to me like a worse off FAL. Like, that's what it seemed to me. I didn't like the sights on them, especially the ones that are like an MP5 sight where you have like that rear sight that is circular and you have to like spin it to be able to adjust for range. I don't really like that. I don't really like the front sights either. Like I find them to be okay on an MP5, but on the G3 it just feels like the sights are not really conducive to a larger rifle like this, in my opinion. However, I will say this. It does have the exact same magazine capacity, and I believe it has a very similar barrel length to that of a FAL. But I don't know. The G3, like, if you were talking about FAL versus G3, I think the FAL is better, for multiple reasons. For some reason, I really can't articulate that at the moment. I'm like, multiple reasons. I'm like, well, what are those reasons? Let's see. I think it holds better in the hand. I just like the way the FAL holds in my hand. I just think it's a lot better. I generally like the way that the charging handle works on the FAL more so than the G3, because on the G3, you have to slap the charging handle, which on an MP5, once again, on an MP5, it's totally fine to slap the charging handle. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. But when you're talking about the G3 has so much spring tension in it, because it's such a high caliber rifle, it's in 308, that to pull the cocking handle back, which you see right here, you can actually see the cocking handle groove right here where you charge the gun, like, you know, like racket. It has such a strong strength to it. It's really hard to do, in my opinion. I don't really like that much about it. I just have never been that accurate with a G3 either. I've been very accurate with FALs, really, really good with FALs, but with the G3, just not that much. Overall, I don't know. I'm just not that big a fan of this thing. So I would have to be entirely honest, and it's all right. I mean, it's not bad. I'm not gonna say it's the worst thing I shot. It's just that I'm not a big fan of it. And if I had to pick a FAL or a G3, I would pick the FAL. And so let's see. Someone said FAL shoots 6-inch groups. Come on, it's not that bad. It's a pretty good gun. And then some people said, it's my bring gun. Yeah, but Joe said that's a pretty good one. Let's see here. And someone said the HK416 is just a repackaged G. Damn, that's a hot take right there. I mean, and then Hector Diaz said Daniel Defense M4. Man, Matthew would love to hear that right now. He really would. Someone said Steyr AUG. Now, the Steyr isn't that bad. I have a general aversion to bullpups, though, because their triggers are always a little sticky feeling. Their triggers are not as responsive as conventional guns. But I think the AUG...
Did somebody say Daniel?
Someone did say a Daniel while you were gone. So I was like, man, a Daniel Defense M4.
Oh, man, I heard it when I walked off. I heard on the computer from the distance. I heard something about a M4. I was like, Daniel. I was like, huh? I had to come running back. I was like, wait a minute, what's being said?
You're like, what? Wait a minute, what? But I would have to say the AUG is all right. I've shot an AUG. It was not bad. But triggers are just a little weird on bullpups. I've learned that over time. The bullpup has a lot of benefits to it. Like, there's no such thing as a bad design in between the bullpup and the conventional rifle. It's just really about preference. And I found that my preference is more towards conventional rifles. The one bullpup, however, that I will make as the exception to the norm is the FNP90, which is not the P90 plane. Oh my god. Why in the world does it autofill stupid crap like that? Here, the FNP90 right here. This is actually the only bullpup that I will say I really enjoy. It's a very, very good gun for what it is. It's very ergonomical. It fits well in the hand. I think no one can complain about that. Of course, shooting 5.7, it has no kick. The weird way that the magazine works and loads and everything, it seems really unorthodox, but it works incredibly well. And also considering that the rounds eject out of the bottom of the gun, it does not require any kind of conversion for a left-handed shooter, and since I'm a left-handed shooter, that is a huge plus for me, so that way I don't end up having a giant brass cartridge smack into my lip and give me a busted lip or anything like that. So I really like the P90, and that's really the only bullpup I would say I like. And someone said FAMAS.
I can't stand bullpups. I don't know who came up with bullpups, but it just wasn't a good idea.
So actually,
because you can't even really cross-train on like a bullpup and a normal rifle, because if you do that, you mess up your whole training, your stance, and everything, because the weight distribution is so different.
Let's see, British bullpup rifle. Let me go pull that up because it's like the EM2. Here we go. This was the first bullpup.
Oh man, I'm sorry, but the bullpups has never done it for me.
Man, this was weird. Here's an actual picture of the EM1. But let me see if they have another picture of the EM2. Here it is being fired. I mean, that was weird. I mean, that was really weird. I was like, I don't know, I like it. And they also, by the way, they revisited this design, the EM2 design, to make the L85. I'm not joking.
Well, look at that.
I honestly don't like it. And I don't really like the L85. I hate to say it. Like, I think everyone in Britain who served in the armed forces would agree. L85 isn't that great. That's why they're replacing it right now. But they kept it around for as long as they could, and I got to give them credit. They made it work, although it wasn't that great of a gun. Even by people who were using it, they just said it wasn't great. It was terrible. But I don't know. Bullpups just really aren't my thing. And someone brought up the FNP 2000. Oh, do not. That thing is just goofy. It's actually the FS 2000. But here we go. Oh.
Oh, wow. What the hell?
And
it's
then,
a polymer hell.
And then look at this one, dude. Look at this heavily modified. Oh my god.
Oh, dear. What does a bullpup even look like? Like the animal? Like, do they name it a bullpup because a bullpup is ugly, like the animal, or what?
I don't know. Let me go off screen just in case, and let me go because we still have to get to the tanks and everything for Belarus. We still haven't answered that question, but let me go and get the let's see, bullpup. So there is no bullpup animal. Like there is no
bullpup. There's got to be a bullpup.
I couldn't find it. Like it came up
like a bull, like a bull, but it's a pup.
I couldn't find it, bro. I swear, I could not find it, bro. I could not find a bull that was a pup. I could not. But
let's see.
But moving on from that and back into the question for a moment. No, they still have T-72Bs as their best vehicle. They have an incredibly limited number of T-72B3s. And not only that, one second. Bless me. But beyond that, we could see that there was just a load of older vehicles in the Belarusian army. So I would be entirely honest with you, they are still in the Cold War as far as the Belarusian military is concerned. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope you enjoyed our little rabbit hole that somehow sprouted in the middle of answering that question. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, man,
oh great heavens! Oh great heavens! I see the animal, and I think I know why they call it a bullpup now. Goodness gracious, poor thing. It's a bull terrier, a pup bull terrier, the dog. Pull that up and take a look.
Oh my heavens! Oh great heavens! God bless this animal. Oh, it's jacked up. Oh! Oh! Oh!
Poor fella.
Poor
I feel
little
bad
man.
for him, but you know, it seemed like it probably sweet, but goodness gracious.
Dude, this one be coming up into your yard going, oh yes, let those dogs out of those shoes. That snows like that. It's like, ew, get that thing away. Dude, this thing it commits crimes. Like a specific kind of a crime.
Don't say it commits crimes, man. Come on.
Man, this thing be going up going, oh man, my date went terribly poor. That's what that thing looks like. It says, like, no dissing on dogs, though. Love dogs. But this one, sadly, I think it got, like, the genetic short end. But then on the other side of the whole thing, there is for you.
Oh, not that thing again.
Dude, this thing is kind of cute, though. I'm not going to lie.
I like it. But, you know, I don't know if, like, in person I would like it, but it looks interesting on the pictures. That thing's got some razor teeth. Look at that.
Man, the elegant bourgeois. A glimpse into the graceful Russian wolfhound. This thing was made, by the way, to kill wolves. Like, that's why it's called a wolfhound. This, like, the long snout is specifically so that way it can reach out under a wolf's head and rip its throat out. Like, that's what this dog is bred to do. So kind of cool. I mean, that's actually a really neat thing about wolfhounds. But still, I mean, look at this thing.
It really could. Like, this thing would be like an excellent Pringles eater. Like, this thing would eat the Pringles like you've never seen.
Bro, this thing would be feasting. Like, this thing would never run out of Pringles. And then let's see, what is the other one? I think it's called the Akita. Yeah, isn't this the bear hunting dog or something like that?
I think it could be. This Akita is it Japanese or is it Russian?
Yeah, it's Japanese. Let me pull it up. Akita. Let's see here. What
Pretty sure
is?
it's Japanese.
Let's see. Let's see.
Looks like a Shiba Inu a little bit.
See, the word means hunter. Oh yeah, the main targets of hunting were Asian black bears, Japanese seros, and Japanese macaques, which are snow monkeys. But if you want to see an Asian black bear, it's actually those cute little bears that you see at the zoo, and you're like, oh, look at that thing. It's kind of cute. That's the bear that the Akita was used to hunt. And there's actually a load of different breeds of this animal, but nevertheless, they're kind of cute. I mean, they're not really like the grizzly bear from America that's like a tank that would kill you in an instant. These things are just kind of cute and just kind of do their thing. Look at that.
See.
It's just chilling.
Leonardo Willie said that those Akitas are adorable but can be mean as hell. I've heard that about these dogs, not just this Akita right here, but also the Shiba Inu as well. Like very sweet looking, cute dogs, like in pictures, but in real life they can have a bad temper, from what I've heard. And that's the only thing that's prevented me from wanting a Shiba Inu, like the Doge dog, is because of that. I'm worried they might not get along with the corgis.
And also, here's a Shiba Inu beside an Akita for scale.
Oh wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah, that freaking Akita is huge, dude. Like, that thing is freaking massive. And then there's the dog you just never can go wrong with, which is the Pembroke Welsh Corgi, which is truly the best dog alive. Like, they're precious.
Oh yeah, I like those a ton. Corgis are the best.
Mr. Corgi and Shiba will forever be in my heart, and I will never have another kind of dog rather than corgis. Every single one of them have a very sweet disposition about them, like this one does, and it's very fun for them to be around. They're always sweet, they're always precious, and they have such an amazing amount of patience. Like you can like Matthew sometimes for fun will just kind of like I don't want to say harass, but he'll mess with Mr. Corgi to try and get him going so that way he can play with him. And it takes a lot to get Mr. Corgi going. Like, it really does. They're very, very patient dogs.
That's not harassing. That's called playing.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, like you'll poke at his like back feet until he eventually goes, like, you'll be like, stop it. But anyways, they're sweet dogs. I love them. And also there's fluffies, which I wish there was a picture of a fluffy. Because I'm not.
Oh, and see, Abiri LSA said, do they bark a lot? Corgis bark a hell of a lot. Like that's their main thing is barking. Like Mr. Corgi barks at everything.
There's
one barking right there. Yeah, look at that.
Hello, man. And they go rah, rah, rah. Like they actually bark. And then there's one sploofing, and that's what they really look like. They just sploof like that. They just chill.
That's where I actually go up and touch those feet that are actually out on the carpet. That's what he's talking about, harassment. I'll go up and like tap the feet until finally they get up and play.
And also another thing that's funny is that they'll tuck their feet in if you like tap them, like Matthew says. Like if you tap it, they'll like shoot their feet right into their bodies like immediately. You won't be able to find them. But the cute dogs, I love corgis so much. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And also look at this one. It's got a tail. That's really cute. In the future, I'll get a corgi with a tail because I think they look really cute with tails. The only reason most of them don't have tails is that it's actually outlawed in Britain now to dock their tails, but traditionally the tails were docked on corgis because they're actually herding dogs. These things herd cattle. Like, that was what they're bred to do. That's their actual job as a working dog. And so you wouldn't want the cattle stomping on their tail and ripping off their tail or injuring them or something like that, which could be pretty horrendous. So when they were puppies, you would dock the tail, so that way the cattle wouldn't end up stepping on their tail and causing them massive injury. So that's why most corgis are tailless. But they're actually naturally born with tails, and they look like that, which is incredibly cute looking. I mean, the thing looks like a Pokemon at that point, nearly, you know?
Oh, so like almost like a Pokemon.
Almost like a little Pokemon, my boy. Cute little Pokemon. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well. And thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And our next super chat is going to go to Wubba. And thank you very much, Wubba, for that support. That $20 support, that is. And we appreciate it very much. And Wubba says, Putin and the Russians can, you know, they can eat something. And have a nice day, though.
Oh, well, I thank you for the support, Wubba, and helping this channel to keep on running. And yeah, I mean, they can eat. Eat. Damn, son, let them eat. But still, with that, oh man, I'd like to eat. Shut up! But anyways, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
And the next one goes to Howard Turgell, who puts in a $20 donation. Thank you very much, Howard, for that support. He said, how deep into Russia can a USA missile go?
U.S. missiles right now can travel their maximum range into Russia, so I think that's as far as Voronezh at the moment. That's how far a U.S. missile could strike. Wait a minute, hang on. Actually, it's like 250 miles, so... actually about out to Tambov. That's about how far they could strike into Russia. So with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you so much once again for support and help this channel to keep on running. And I hope that gives you the answer. How many miles can America strike into Russia? Or how deep can they strike in Russia? And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you once again for support. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Heather Fitzgibbon, who puts in a $20 donation, and a huge shout out to Heather as well.
Hey!
Heather says, long live the LSA, and take a question from the chat.
And long live the Lee Spring Army, and we will make sure to take a question from the chat. And thank you so much for being a channel legend and helping this channel to keep on running. Thank you for, of course, enjoying the Lee Spring Army and wanting it to live long, because that is such an important thing in this incredible, grand Lee Spring Army. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And Matthew, what kind of question do we have?
And the live chat question is going to go to Mick, who says, could the delay of the F-16s have to do with ground crew training?
It possibly could, although really it takes less time to train the ground crews than it does the pilots. So in reality, I would say maybe, but that would be really weird if they went kind of backwards, a butt backwards into this whole deal and trained the pilots before they ever even started to try and train the ground crews. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and thank you so much once again for sponsoring that live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And let's jump right into our next one. This one goes to David Huss. He puts in a 20, and thank you very much, David, for the $20 support. He says, take a look at the USPS First Class Mail International, as it's much cheaper if the weight of the packages are under 15 ounces. And David, it's funny that you should mention that, because that is exactly what I use to ship around the world, is First Class Mail International. And that is exactly what is expensive. USPS is not cheap when it comes to shipping around the world. If you're shipping items that are small, like, for example, the patches, there's like a certain level that the price will never go below, depending on where you're shipping to. So even though I'm only shipping a 4x6, or excuse me, not a 4x6, but a 4x2.5 inch patch, the package itself is a little bit larger than that. And it's about $16 on average to ship it using First Class Mail International. So sadly, good idea here, but that's already been looked into. And sadly, that's not viable. But I really wish I could find a viable option here. Like, I really wish I could. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to, but I'll keep looking into it. But Enforcer, what say you?
I think Matthew addressed that the best I could, but still, thank you so much for supporting.
You don't have anything to add?
Not really. I mean, you're the kind of the logistics person on that end, so you kind of answered that way better than I could. But still, I thank you so much for support and helping this channel to keep on running and throwing in some incredibly kind words as well. And also trying to throw in some ideas, because we appreciate and love people throwing ideas. But Matthew already tried that, and that's what's so expensive. But still, with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, someone said, couldn't you ship with envelopes? In theory, we could, but the only thing is, though, the patches still have to go through customs. So there has to be a customs form included on it, which has to be attached to the outside, or it has to be on the label itself. Also, with international, I would really prefer to have tracking, and it's kind of hard to do that with the envelope. I think you can get tracking for it, but it's not, not the same as having like a full-on package. And also, it would be super complicated because we have a ton of orders that have come in for the patches, and for us to do as many orders as we have, we would be probably doing that for months if we had to do individual envelopes, because that'd be a hell of a lot of work to do that. So sadly, that's really not an option either. It's just really tricky with this because the item is small, and it's just small enough to prevent it from being like worthwhile to ship for the $16. So it's really a tough spot. But I'll keep looking. Don't worry, folks. But anyways, our next one is going to go to Thomas Hansen yet again, who puts in a $20 donation. And huge shout out to Thomas for the third support of the night. He said, how close would you estimate that the world is to a DEFCON 5?
DEFCON 5. I think that's like the lowest DEFCON. DEFCON 5. Oh, So DEFCON 5 is fade out. Oh man, we're back to those stupid terms. Look, Matthew. DEFCON 5, fade out. Double take, roundhouse, fast pace, cock pistol. Oh man, these exercise terms. Oh my goodness. It's like, oh my goodness. Dude, roundhouse. Dude, they need to change that to roadhouse or something like that. DEFCON 3, roadhouse. But beyond that, I would say that our world is probably in DEFCON 5 right now, to be quite honest. Because DEFCON has to do with really nuclear war for the most part. And also, we don't really know when or what DEFCON we're at any time. So I would say that we're probably at DEFCON 5 or we're at DEFCON 4 right now. One or the other. So DEFCON 5 is not that far away. It's literally just one step away probably at this point. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because I had to take a double take of that question before we faded out. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Man, can you imagine if like the Gen Z or Gen X, whatever they call the young people, which one is it?
I think we're like
Generation Z.
I think we're Z. Yeah.
Z. So, imagine if they like named the DEF CON stuff like that, like DEF CON 5, chill bro, DEF CON 4, it's getting kind of serious, but tighten up. DEF CON 1 would be, you about to catch the fade, bro. Man, it would get cringy real quick.
Dude, no, man, DEF CON 5 would be, it would still be fade out. DEF CON 4 would be, something like, let's see, real shit. Like, it would be something like that. And then
Real trap shit.
Yeah, and then DEFCON 3 would be like, oh damn son. Oh, and then DEFCON 2 would be like, damn Daniel. And then DEFCON 1 would probably be like, it's a prank, bro, or something like that. It would probably be something. Better yet, Matthew, DEFCON 1 would be, hey, hot dog man, you stupid bastard. That would be DEFCON 1. Oh,
Put the
man.
chicken wing down, man, and stand up like a man.
Oh man, I'm gonna run and then I'm gonna go to my keyboard and type out a really good story. Oh man, now listen, y'all. I need to find footage of what happened out there at that sports bar. I gotta find some footage. Someone filmed that, obviously, because if it was such a big deal as it's being said, someone had to have pulled out their phone and recorded that. It has to be on Instagram or something somewhere, and I want to see it. I want to see how that went down. Because someone had to have been filming. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. It's just a complete side note, but still, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well, because I think we're at DEFCON 4 or 5 right now, and it wouldn't take that much to get back to DEFCON 5 if we're not at it. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Howard Turgell yet again. He throws in another one, and this is another $20 support. And thanks very much, Howard, for this support. He said that kindness is free, and doing without needing a return is the best gift.
And I would agree with you, Howard. And I thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Kindness is free. Doesn't take a lot to do. Doesn't take a lot at all. And I'd highly encourage people to be kind to each other. Kind and nice. Because if people, you know, if people weren't nice to each other, imagine how hellish it would be. It would be terrible. It would be horrendous. It would be a hell on earth. And I got to thank you, Howard Turkle, for the support and throwing in some words of reason and sensibility. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Andy L, who puts in a $20 donation. And huge shout out to Andy, and shout out to Texas as well. He says, for being the good guys.
Hey, and I thank you so much for the support, Andy L, for us being the good guys, because we try our best to be the good guys. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support, Andy L, and thank you for regularly supporting this channel and helping us to keep this thing running. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on rolling, because folks like you make it possible. And Matthew, we're on to that next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Thomas Hansen yet again.
Hey!
He throws in another one. And huge shout out to Thomas for the, I think, fourth support of the night. He puts in a 20 and says, Mr. Governor, is there a possibility... Wait a minute, let's see here. Mr. Governor, is there a possibility that Ukraine gonna join NATO when this atrocious war against Ukraine is laid on the bookshelves of history?
Yes, yes, I do think, Mr. Senator, that the war will most likely result in a Ukrainian joining of NATO. It is quite inevitable. In fact, it will be quite inevitable for Ukraine and Moldova to both join NATO at around the exact same time. I think it is an inevitable certainty of a victory in the war that Ukraine will become a part of NATO. It is something that has clearly been worked on extensively in the background, even as the war has been going on, and it's something that both sides are greatly anticipating, both Ukraine and NATO. So I do believe in that instance that there will most likely be a great joining of Ukraine and NATO into one. And so with that, I thank you greatly once again for the support and helping this channel to keep running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running right now. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep running.
Yes, indeed. And also, good night to NDL. He's leaving for the night.
Night, NDL.
Good night, LSA. And also, we have another super chat. This one is from Love Is Everything, who puts in a $10 donation. And huge shout out to Love Is Everything for that support. They said, now that North Korea has emptied their trash on South Korea, what do you think they're going to try next? And also, Enforcer, did you see, like, speaking of this topic right here, just by the way, for some context, if anybody hasn't heard, North Korea filled up some balloons full of their trash and sewage and sent it across the border into South Korea with propaganda leaflets, and the trash and the sewage went everywhere in South Korea. That was a different type of move right there. But when somebody in the U.S. was asked about that, a reporter asked one of the State Department people, they said, excuse me, State Department of the U.S., is South Korea planning on sending trash and sewage back across the border to get revenge for this? They said, next question. It's like, well, what's so absurd about that? Like, I think South Korea ought to send garbage and trash back to North Korea.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a legit, honestly, I found that to be kind of a little bit of a legit question. Like, are we going to send the turd balloons back? Like, are we going to return fire on that instance? Like, I think it would kind of be fair. But beyond that, I did hear about that. I don't really think anything would be next. We do hear that there's a little bit of jamming going on right now in, I believe, as they called it, the West Sea, which would be the Yellow Sea, I believe, which would be somewhere around here. We have heard that the North Koreans are jamming in that area right now. But in reality, I just don't really think there's a lot that's going to happen. I think that was one of those stupid diplomatic stunts that North Korea does here and there because they're a stupid despotic regime. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. And so I don't really think anything is going to be coming out of that. I hope not, because it would be a really stupid way to begin a war, is by dropping turd balloons on South Korea and then invading them. So I would say probably not a lot, in my opinion, but I could be wrong. But also, we have to remember, folks, that the North Koreans did this because they do not ham-hung. Simply put, no ham-hung. Also, is this a North Korean airbase? Ew, it is! Dude, it's a North Korean military airbase, and look! They have a MiG-15 and nothing but MiG-21s. It's like Vietnam out here.
That is like Vietnam. You know something also, by the way, is kind of like off the topic of the airfield real quick. I was just thinking, if South Korea really wanted to, like, you know, quote unquote, fire back in a like metaphorical sense on North Korea for sending the sewage over, all South Korea has to do is fill up a bunch of those balloons with like Hershey's bars that says like "Made in America" on the back of it. Send those across the border, let them fall all over the North Korean towns, and let the North Koreans see what the West has, and let them have some food. And you know they'll probably be all over that at that point. They'll be like, "Oh wow, like we really want to be in America. They have like food and stuff like that." Instead of North Korea, which has nothing. We literally just got done filling up sewage balloons and sending it over to our brothers in South Korea. That'd probably be a better thing.
I like how the North Koreans are always talking about they have no ill will to the South Koreans. They just want to reunify, and then they literally fly turd balloons down to South Korea just at people at random. It's like that doesn't really like align with what they're trying to sell, you know? Like, but then again, they don't really sell much of anything too well. Also, I was wondering, do they have any military air bases on the outskirts of Pyongyang? Because man, they got that dude and duck factory out here. This thing looks like Auschwitz. I'm not even kidding. Like, the layout of this place is Auschwitz-like. Like, with the barracks and everything that they have.
Close to it.
I mean, that is actually...
You know...
Go ahead.
Also, by the way, another idea, instead of sending the chocolate bars across the border, like whole, you can melt the chocolate down, into like turd shapes and put it in the balloons and send that back across the border to North Korea. Let them have that. So if one accidentally like falls on somebody's head, they're like, "Huh, that turd tastes pretty good."
Oh,
Man,
no.
the South Korean shit doesn't even stink.
Bro, that would be like some Caddyshack crap right there, dude. Drop a chocolate turd on someone's head. Oh, my lord. But, dude, oh, wait a minute. Oh, look, here's the DPRK ICBM Development Center. Oh, the roof is rusted. I don't think they're doing a lot of development up in this building. I think they're doing a lot of devolvement. Wait a minute, hang on. Is that statue of the Kims? Hold up, I think that is that statue of the Kims, isn't it? It won't even let us see, so that's kind of a little stupid. I'm trying to find a military airfield outside of Pyongyang because there's got to be... Oh my gosh, dude, this is actually kind of depressing. Like, just looking at this place, even from space, they got a horse riding club. They're not telling me they actually have horse riding here. Like, come on. Like, look at this. This is hardly even kept up, really. Well, this part's kept up, but this little central area, no, it's not kept up. Where in the world is an airport even around Pyongyang? We just went around the entire outside perimeter, and I have not seen a single airport or airbase. Oh, here we go. The Pyongyang Sunan International Airport. Do they have any military... Are they baffle me. Like, instead of just building a second runway parallel to this one, or something, they build an entire other one up here. Why? Like, that is a stupid airline. That's like a stupid, like, runway layout. Anyways, they have to have military...
They're expanding Air Koryo because, you know, I've heard that they're renaming Air Koryo from that to Air Coronary because the planes are falling apart.
Dude, that would be true. Like, that would be so true, but... Like, oh my lord. Dude, the runway is falling apart. Like, it's actually, like, caving in. And there's not really a lot going on around here. Oh my gosh, dude, that runway is in horrendous shape. That is actually a really tough off runway. And then they have their usual passenger planes. It doesn't look like they even have military air bases around Pyongyang, to be quite honest, because that's the closest airport we could find up there. And I'm not seeing any others close nearby. So there may not even be like a air base at Pyongyang. They might just be in other areas of the country. I'm kind of interested in that. I want to rabbit hole on that for a bit and try and figure out where their air bases are by just pulling it up really quickly. But I don't want to waste everyone's time here. And we do have a decent amount of questions to keep on answering. But this place... Oh, dude, is there any pictures that we get? How about this one? Oh, it's inside of a building. Every building in North Korea looks like a fever dream. Like, every single one of them. Like,
wait a minute. What was that painting on the wall? Like, turn around and zoom in on that.
Dude, he's hitting the gritty, man. Like, he's not even...
Man.
Bro.
It's like this. They chose this picture. That's the crazy thing. They said this picture will go great, like, in the lobby, and, like, zoom it up, like, 50 times. It's literally just a picture of him walking through a hallway. It's like, is that the best thing they had?
And just staring up, bro. It looks like it looks like he just sat there and went, oh, and looked up, and then they took the picture when he did that. Like... I don't know what is up with the North Korean buildings, but they really are the epitome of, like, fever dream. Like, this is what you would dream a building would look like. Like this one. Oh, no, wait a minute, it's just a... Wait a minute, no. This is no way that this is the North Korean, like, Congress, like, assembly thing. This has just got to be some random stage or something, because there's no way it's all the way out here in this part. Like, I'm going to have to zoom in on that.
Oh, yes. Sumimasen.
So that's the school children's palace, and the roof is also rotting off the school children's palace as well. So
the school children are having a rough time.
And then you got the flour processing plant over here. I have a feeling they're not really in business that much, considering there's not really anything grown in Korea, South Korea, well, North Korea at least. But let's see, what else do we have? There's got to be something like just of the outside world. Oh, that's that freaking boat.
Oh, look at this. This is
the
like junkyard boat out here.
Yeah, it's the only boat they captured from the U.S., so they really... Oh, dude, look. This might be the closest we get to... No, this is still downtown. I looked at these crappy commie blogs, so I was like, this is the closest I think we're getting to, like, the outside of Pyongyang. Nope, it's still downtown. There's the Victory Arch, which is, like, a huge monument thing in Pyongyang. I just can't find anything from the outskirts. I think that's where that stupid pyramid-shaped hotel is, so we'll go here. Well, wait a minute. Nah, I know what that one is. Let's go here. Oh my gosh, dude. Only pictures... even here, the commie blocks, though, look horrendous, though. I'm not going to lie. So, man, you just can't find, like, pictures of anything in North Korea. Are there any pictures outside Pyongyang at all that we could look at? Okay, so there's one, like, right here. Oh, wait, we've looked at this one. This was, like, super secret, like, spy base. But what is the one out here at Wonsan? Oh, that's the beach. We've looked at this one as well. I think we looked at all the pictures in North Korea at one point. We got that Ho Young up in here. Let's see what we got. Oh, yeah, that's that Alps thing that's not supposed to be there. And, dang, dude. Any good picture? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, that's that stupid hotel room we looked at. We're like, ew, this thing looks horrendous, like it's bugged. Okay, so we looked at everything here. We don't even have any content to talk about North Korea on Google. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address your question. Well, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again, and I hope we were able to give a good rabbit hole on North Korea.
Yes, indeed. I hope we did rabbit hole deeply on North Korea. And then this next one here goes to Monsieur Gaston, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Monsieur, for the support. He said, may I have some rock, Governor? So, you know that means pull out the marmot. Pull him up.
Oh, we have to get it. We have to find it. I said that so seriously for this to be like a gag, running gag thing. But anyways. Oh, hello there.
Oh, hello. May I have some rock? I have 1 kilo right down here. Look, rock. It's rock.
Aw, man. Aw, man. I can't get rock anymore because I'm scared of the people outside. Aw, man.
Oh, man. Oh, no. Oh, where am I going to find rock? Oh, man.
The prison I make for myself. What does Romania have to say about this? That's the last words. The last words before tragedy. What does Romania got to say about this?
I don't know.
I don't know what I got to say. You saw
this segment evolved quickly, like we lost it altogether.
Dude, we really did. We just started going, you know, we sound like that joke from Family Guy where they're like, you know, the aristocratic people draw out their laughs, where they're like, you know, something like that. That's what we turned into. I was like, dang, man, we got nothing for this one. But still, beyond that, thank you, Monsieur Gaston, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And you know something, Monsieur Gaston, I don't know if I shared this with you. I think it was a long time ago if I did. You know what your name reminds me of and why I say it a certain way? Like Gaston. Is because of the Disney movie, and also because there is this power plant down here called the Ernest C. Gaston Electric Generating Plant, which, whenever I drive over this bridge here near Chillersburg, which is very rare these days, I always look down the river and I see this power plant. And I always look at it and I go, Gaston! Gaston! Like, even when I'm alone in the car, I'll do it just because it's funny. And so, every time I see you throw in a super chat and it's Monsieur Gaston, I always think about this power plant for no reason at all, rather than I think it's funny. But still, beyond that, thank you for the support. I hope that does address that well, and thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And folks like you do make it possible. Thank you. Thank you. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to Duncan VR, who puts in a $15 super chat. And a huge shout out to Duncan once more for supporting the channel bigly. He says, with the animal noises, this is in the super chat, by the way, so I don't want to see anybody going berserk out there talking about, oh, what's he doing animal noises for? What is he, 5 years old? I'm reading a super chat, okay? It says, Bamuba, Russia is at DEFCON 69.
Nice.
What's it? Meow. Meow, quack. Putin got his... Wait a minute, hold on. Let me read this one, actually. I've never seen this from Duncan.
No, we're on DEFCON 4. Double take.
Putin got his feelers out for Steven Seagal. Baba. 2 groups of LSA t-shirts and Marmot mugs. Free shipping to here. Would you... Whoa, what the hell? I'm not reading that last part off. Scrap that. Scratch that. It's just a prank, bro.
It's just a prank, bro. It's just a prank. Oh my goodness. What are you doing, Duncan? What are you doing? It's like, come on, it's supposed to be a prank. But nevertheless, I do thank you for the support, Junkie VR, and helping this channel to keep running. But my word, Duncan, R-rated in the last segment. You got us in the first half, not gonna lie. But beyond that, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I gotta say that that's something else. But still, thank you for the support, helping this channel to keep on running, and throwing in the traditional animal noises. We can't have a stream that is normal without them. And I gotta thank you once again for making this a reality. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to AMX10 Speedy Bang Bang, who puts in a $10 donation. And he says, Putin choking on clouds of chalk while deleting of his silly little map after the Ukrainian police did the business on the little green men.
Man, I'm telling you what, those police did the business. I'm telling you what, those cops weren't playing. They weren't raiding. They were wiping out. And I gotta say, he's probably inhaling a lot of chalk. I would agree with that completely. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support. I thank you for helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here talking about this stuff right now. And so with that, hi guys, Enforcer here. We're on to the next one. But thank you. And what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so moving on to our next one here. They like to party, and you gotta tell them no.
Wait, no.
But anyways.
Hi, guys. Enforcer here. They like to party, and you have to tell them no.
No diddy.
Anyways, on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Old Man Gib, who puts in a $10 donation and says, what do you think the chances are that Russia will hit Israel through proxy in revenge of Ukraine using U.S. weapons, kind of tit for tat?
I think that's pretty low, because it looks like the Russians really didn't get involved at all in the Middle Eastern affair. So I would have to be entirely honest. I don't think they really want to touch that. I think that's something that they really know is out of their periphery at the moment, and they don't really have to focus on, and they don't plan on it. So I would say that the chances of them doing that to Israel are incredibly low, but them doing something directly to Ukraine is probably much higher. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Wubba, who puts in a $10 donation. And Wubba says $10 more for Toxic Hellscape. I'm still laughing.
And thank you so much for the support and enjoying my statement about the Sin River, because it is a toxic hellscape down there in the river. I mean, it really is. I mean, like, if you've ever been near that river, it's horrendous. It's bad. But still, I thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep running and supporting it and making it possible. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here covering this channel right now. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one. And thank you for enjoying that comment as well.
Indeed. And our next one is going to GunFox61, who put in a $10 donation. And huge shout out to GunFox for that support. And let's see. Goodness. Let's see. Oh my goodness, man. I don't know about this one. This one right here might gross everybody out. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it grossed me out while I was reading it. I don't know about this one. It's about Chris's mom, but it's just goodness gracious. This is a terrible image to put in people's heads. I don't know if I could bear it. Unfortunately, you want to read this one?
Let me get to it. I have to put it up for review. Man, my YouTube control room gets so freaking slow these days. It is insane. And I'm trying to scroll up to it. There we go.
Oh, dreadful.
Oh, no. Oh, no. We can't read that. Oh, my God. Gunflag61. He's coming in with the shots being fired, and they're not warning shots. But beyond that, I got to thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. But Gunfox, we could never read that. But we could thank you for the support and helping this channel to be possible. It's just that we cannot repeat what you said about Chris's mom, because it's more vile than Chris's mom. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And he did ask for a live chat question. And this one goes to Nick, who says, does all limitations off include the Geneva Convention's forbidden weapons and rules?
No. All bets are off just really talks about the weapons, not the Geneva Convention and everything else. You're always supposed to follow those. Those are never supposed to be anything. They're supposed to be on or off the table. So I hope that answers that fairly well. And I thank you so much once again for sponsoring that live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we've got a $10 super chat from Drop Nation. Drop Nation is back again. It's good to see you, Drop Nation. And also, I was telling the enforcer yesterday, a fun fact, the reason why I recognize you is because way back in the day, when I used to do motorcycle videos, when I used to have a motorcycle, a little small one back in the day, I think it was a music or some track or something like that. I had seen it on your YouTube channel, and I'd ended up using one of them. So huge shout out to you, by the way. I've seen your channel for a very long time, even before this channel. But Drop Nation says, I learn things from you guys every day, and thank you so much.
And thank you so much, Drop Nation. And also, that's really cool to know that you and Matthew have a little bit of history, although y'all don't really know it, but until, like, neither of y'all do it until now. But still, that is really cool. And I got to thank you so much for learning something new every day. I think you sent in that super chat while I was talking about the environmental science side of things about rivers and pollution and stuff. And I got to thank you so much for enjoying that segment, because while it's not necessarily about the war, I just hope that people find that kind of stuff to be really interesting, you know, because not everything has to be about the war. Some stuff could just be about anything. And I'm generally someone who finds everything interesting, so I ended up just blabbering about it anyways. But I thank you so much once again for enjoying that segment and finding something out new here every day. And I thank you for also helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you make this thing a reality and help us to continue to make this thing possible. And so with that, we're about to be moving on to the next one. But also, folks, I just saw this train station here, and it really interested me. I'm so sorry. I must. I don't know why. Oh, wow, that's actually really nice looking. Like, dang. What kind of trains do they have here? Do they have nice ones? Okay, so they got the HGTV, which is really good. It's the high-speed train. But I saw a German one, possibly, and that was really peaking, like a DB Talent or something like that over there. And then they got the older electric trains, the SNCF trains. But, man, dude, you know what? It would be kind of cool to go to France. I would like to go there one day and check it out. But, man, look at this.
Oh, France.
Oh, la française avec you. But still, it's a really cool looking train station here. I like it. We actually went to a train station in Britain, which was Paddington Station, which, you know, goes out to the western part of the country towards Cornwall and Wales and everything. This is run by Great Western. But that was a really nice train station. I always have a thing for train stations because they're like modern day cathedrals of a sort. They're kind of cathedrals of progress for the most part. But anyways, that's my abstract take on train stations. That's completely beside the point. But still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Sylvan Bear, who puts in a $10 donation and says, your diligence in providing detailed information is appreciated.
And your diligence to enjoying and helping to support that information is greatly appreciated, because it helps to make all of it possible. And I got to thank you so much once again for supporting this channel and helping us to keep this thing running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here covering this right now. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we've got 3 super chats in a row from Blue Flam 777 LLSA.
Hey!
And thank you very much, Blue Flam, for the 3 $10 supporters for a total of $30. That's 10 times 3.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. But anyways, moving on to the first one. These look like jokes. Oh, goodness gracious, these look like jokes. Let's see. Let's see. I'm scared. Enforcer, my brain's not working. Can you read them, please?
Man, all I saw, Maddie, was this cryptic message from Snow White. You must go. And I was like, what? I was like, what does that mean? And then I scrolled up in the chat, and then the question, well, the statement before that from Snow White was, Matt's tired. And then Snow White said, you must go. And it sounded so cryptic. I was like, what does that mean? I was like, what does she mean by that? Well, let's see. So these are fine, Matthew. We will read these. So please proceed.
Oh, so Blue Flam put in 1 right here. It said, my granny sits on her porch with 2 shotguns. No story. I'm just saying. Question to the chat. And actually, that didn't sound like a joke. It sounded like real facts.
That just sounded like straight facts. Blue Flam out here spitting facts. And so with that, let's send the question to the chat in honor of Blue Flam 777.
All right. So this one goes to Urban X, who says, what's up with the Russian freedom fighters? Are they still in the fight?
Yes, they are still in the fight. They're in the northern Kharkiv area. It's just that they're not in Russia anymore. That kind of a little chapter kind of ended in disaster for the most part. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you for sponsoring that live chat, Blue Flam. And with that, we are on to the second super chat from Blue Flam.
And this one goes to Blue Flame 777 LSA once again. Obviously, we just said that. But this one says, my granny is crazy. She yells at me across the room, Billy, what's the name of that German guy who drives me crazy? He said it's Alzheimer's, Granny. Question to the chat.
Oh, no, that was actually a pretty good one, man. I didn't expect that. I thought he was going to be like, it's Hitler. I was like, well, that's kind of a weird punchline. And then it's Alzheimer's. I was like, oh, I was like, that's a good one. I like that. I appreciate that. And I thank you for the support, Blue Flame, and throwing in another real one. That was pretty good. And we will make sure to send that one to the chat.
And the one from the chat this time goes to Urban X once again, who says, what happened to Russian freedom fighters who went into Belgorod? And Urban X, you asked that same question twice. I grabbed it twice. Well, thank you very much. We're going to grab another one instead. This one goes to your boy, Troy. He says, what do you think Russia's response will be now that Ukraine can send American freedom rounds directly right into Russia?
Their response will probably be very limited, if any, because there's not really a lot they can do about that in reality. And so with that, I hope that does address that at least the best I can, in my opinion. And thank you once again for sponsoring a second live chat, Blue Flame 777. And with that, we are on to the last super chat from Blue Flame 777, and then we're going to be moving back into the rest of the super chats.
And this one is from Blue Flame once again. It says, I asked my grandpa, after 65 years, you still call grandma darling, beautiful, and honey. What's the secret? And I think he says, I forgot her name 5 years ago, and I'm scared to ask her. She owns a shotgun. Question to the chat.
The whole thing with your grandmother owning a shotgun, it's a very interesting thing. It's like a recurring theme in these super chats. But beyond that, I thank you so much for the support. I thank you for sharing the fact a lot that your grandmother has a shotgun. And also, that's a smart move right there. That your grandfather isn't forgetful. He's Schlick Rick right there. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. We will make sure to grab a live chat. So what do we got, Matthew?
So this live chat goes to AF Kaplan, who says, has the IOC made any official statement regarding the attempted Chechen terrorist plot that was foiled in Perry?
I haven't heard of an official statement yet. All we know is that the suspect has been arrested, and we do not have any additional information at this moment. So unfortunately, I'd have to declare ignorance on that due to a lack of information. But I do thank you so much once again for support, Blue Flame 777, and helping this channel to keep on running and throwing in 3 $10 super chats tonight to make this channel a reality and help us to keep this thing running. And so thank you massively once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Rob Wilkes. Rob Wilkes puts in a 5, and thank you very much, Rob, for that support. He says, do you guys know that bliat means effing shite in Russian, and it's commonly used the way Americans use the F word? And yes, I did, bliat.
Yes, bliat, this way we use it, bliat. What the hell do you think we are, stupid? That's like, do you think we're a piece of dick, bliat? I'm just kidding. Like, yes, we didn't know that, but it still sounds funny, so we just throw it in whenever, to be quite honest. But with that, I thank you so much once again for support and sharing that with us. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Nick LSA, who puts in a $5 donation. And thank you very much, Nick, for that support as always. And also shout out to Carrie Ann as well. And we appreciate y'all very much. And we also have a 5 from AMX 10 Speedy Bang Bang. He said, it's possible we would only remove Ukraine war restrictions and nothing more if Russia struck a European military target.
Wait, reread that one again?
He said it's possible we would only remove Ukraine war restrictions and nothing more if Russia struck a European military target.
It's possible. I'm not really sure what you mean about restrictions. Weapons restrictions, our involvement in the war. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, but I could see that. And so with that, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 5 from Hoodoo, Texas. He says Hitler declared war on the U.S., and to talk about national seppuku. However, Putin has nukes.
And that is true. Putin does have nukes. That is true. We'll have to consider that. We'll have to put that into consideration due to Texas. But actually, what's interesting is that Japan attacked the United States. We declared war on Japan, and then I think Germany declared war on the United States without us declaring war on them, if I remember the sequence correct, which was really stupid of them, because they could have completely kept the United States out of the war in Europe, but then they decided to kind of join us in anyways. Really dumb. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you once again for support Hoodoo Texas to help this channel to keep on running, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Primal Plasma, who puts in a 5, and says, Claude 3 says expecting Russia to ignore Ukraine's attack seems dangerously optimistic given history. Aggressors usually escalate. Who's Claude?
I don't know.
Is that like AI or something?
People name drop sometimes, and I'm like, I don't know who these people are. Like, I have no clue. Klaus throughout the statement that when you are confronted with the wolves, you feed them the pigs. It's just like, I don't know who Klaus is, but beyond that, Klaus says this, and I say that the Chinese People's Liberation Army, Navy, Marine Corps says otherwise, but still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And maybe that's right, maybe that's wrong. Sometimes the aggressor does not always escalate. Sometimes they just back off. Like the Soviet invasion in Afghanistan. There was only so much they could do to escalate. Not much more. And sadly, they didn't use the nukes, which might disprove that statement a little bit, at least in my opinion, in that one historical instance. But still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one. And what is so crazy is that we just got a super chat from someone in Nuremberg. Like, you would not believe it. Right when I start doing my German accent, someone from Germany actually comes into the chat, and now I'm gonna feel like a fool. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Shoppy SC, who puts in a €5 and says, "Good morning from Nuremberg, LSA."
Yeah, hello there. Just hello to Nuremberg. Really cool, yeah, you know. The really cool
Not to mention Savoy.
Really cool place, you know. There's this really cool building. Where is it? Oh, here it is! The Congress Hall. This is a kind of an interesting building. Check it out, if I can get a damn picture of it. There it is. Isn't that kind of cool looking, you know? It looks like a, you know, just kind of a building. But beyond that...
It reminds me of Savoy.
Nine! Beyond that, I got to say, Nuremberg is a really cool place. I'm trying to see if I can find the other... Damn, that's a huge rail yard. Oh my goodness, mein Gott. That is huge. But beyond that, I'm trying to find some really cool stuff about it. Oh yeah, they have a canal down here. And here's like a small harbor for the canal. Kind of cool, you know, kind of cool if you're into canals and stuff. But let's see, what else? I'm completely drawing blanks right now. There's so many cool things to say about Nuremberg rather than World War II. But I can't think of them for some reason. Let's see here. Does Nuremberg have its traditional buildings left? Hell no. Like, the whole place was bombed. I don't know why I asked that, because all this is post-war. But still, thank you so much for the support and being from Nuremberg, Germany, which is really cool to know that you're here tonight and supporting this channel and helping us to keep this thing running. And check out this castle in Nuremberg. That's really cool. But anyways, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. While Matthew and me, or I don't know why, but we petered out so quickly tonight. It's insane. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
I don't know what it is tonight either, because I had my normal espresso. I had food. Honestly, I think it might be the food. We had pizza tonight. I will say that. We utilized the pizza find. The pizza is full of carbs, and that burns off very quickly, I think, because I feel like I'm out of energy. I think it relates to the food. So pizza is good, but it's not good for a long time, sadly. But there's more upstairs, so I'll have to go get some. But anyways, the next one goes to Yoss. The next one goes to Rob Wilkes, who puts in a 5. And it says, Russia's primitive trench warfare may work now in defense, but against a U.S. combined arms attack, the USAF Thunder will roll. We also have a Navy.
And I thank you for the support, and that's completely true. The U.S. would the U.S. alone, not including the rest of NATO, which has its own abilities, would steamroll the Russians horrifically. There would not be stagnant front lines like we see right now, because the United States has enough firepower to focalize in the central area and just overwhelm the Russians through superior firepower, instead of through human waves, which are far more exhaustive resource and manpower-wise, which is what the Russians try and do. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have another one from Blue Flame 777 LSA yet again, who puts in a $10 donation. He said, words. Option 1, let's eat grandma. Option 2, let's eat. Grandma. There you have it. That's proof that punctuation saves lives. Question to the chat.
That's something I need to learn because I'm so bad at putting typos in the description, and so many people keep pointing that out, Blue Flam, like about like the punctuation, the typos, and everything in the description. I will have y'all know when I write that description, it's being written inside of the OBS system, which is what our stream runs on, and it never has an autocorrect thing in it or a typo detector, and I'm writing that like 5 minutes before the stream goes live to make sure it's as up to date as possible, so I don't have time to really proofread it. So there's always like a typo in there somewhere, and it just annoys me. Like, because I know there's a typo, and then people point it out. I'm like, I know, but I didn't have time to fix it. But still, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, Blue Flame. And I will make sure to put a question to the chat. And so what do we got, Matthew?
And that question is going to go to, let's see here, Uncovered Cube, who says, do you think that the use of these weapons on Russian soil will lead to a bigger war?
It probably will not. In my opinion, I don't think it really will. It's just more Russian hype talk, because we've heard the Russians threaten war and nuclear war so many times throughout this entire conflict, and it never has come around. They did it with the HIMARS, they did it with the M777, they did it with the ATACMS, they did it with everything, and they've never followed through with that statement. So it's kind of like China's final warning. It's just never a real one. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for support, Blue Flame 777, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, Matthew, I'm curious, how many super chats do we have left?
We have about 8 left.
All right, and so I'm actually going to do something we have not done in a long time. We're going to be announcing a super chat cutoff. So from this point forward, if you throw in a super chat, unfortunately, we will not be able to read it and address it because we are going to be rounding out the remainder of the super chats that we have, and then running into a few live chats, and then rounding out the stream. Because to be honest, I'm about to fall out into a coma for no reason. I have no idea why. I'm just so tired. And Matthew sounds really tired too. And so I want to make sure that we can get off air and make sure to get some sleep so that way we can get up tomorrow and get right back at this again. And so with that, hope that doesn't... What?
He's dead, Jim.
Dude, all I heard was him. I like hemming pants. I
That's
was like,
Jim.
Dude, all I heard was him. And I was like, pants? I was like, what I'm not Taylor. What do you think I am? But anyways, with that.
Damn it, Spock. I'm a doctor, not a mechanic.
Damn it, Jim. You know, he didn't even say the damn it in the show. He would say, dang it, Jim. And then everyone turned it into damn it, Jim, because that's what it really sounded like. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
Hey, nurse, can you pass me that Sorium brandy?
Oh, dude, how did you remember that, dude? Like, I was like, it's like Sabian, and then you said sorry, and I was like, no freaking way. It's like, we're so tired that you can remember that. Like, that is wild.
It starts coming back to me. That delirium starts bringing back that crap. But anyway,
you know what that delirium's bringing back to me? That very vivid memory of the black and white guys running down the hall, and the more they started to run, the stupider they looked, if you know what I'm talking about.
The black and white guys.
You know, the guy who was black on the right side and white on the other, and then the other guy who was black on the left side, white on the other, and they hated each other and wanted to kill each other. Remember that?
I remember that now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, and the goofy guys were like running around the ship, and they were getting like more and more tired. The more they got tired, the more they were running like T-Rexes, you know, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, man, they were slinging those arms, I'm telling you.
Man, it was so stupid. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a 5 once again from Thomas Hansen. And Thomas Hansen, huge thanks for the massive support tonight.
Hey!
And he says, I would like to thank this channel for giving us good news.
Heartface, and thank you so much for the support, and thank you for enjoying the good news and helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Booyah 360 Report, who puts in a 5. It says, should stop thinking in terms of winning or losing wars. If Putin and Xi get political victories, they don't care how many go through the meat grinder. Comment?
Comment? Maybe. I mean, maybe I could throw one in. I don't think political victories matter. Actual victories in war matter, because you can't make a political victory out of a strategic defeat. Like, you just cannot. It's impossible to do. And no country has really ever succeeded at trying that. So with that, I hope that does address that well. And I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to CK Bold, who puts on the usual $5 super chat. And huge thanks to you, CK Bold, for the number 5. And take a live chat question, and we shall. This one goes to, let's see here, Vlogger, who says, are there massive protests in Russia? And if so, do you think that that will put pressure on Russia to stop the war and withdraw from Ukraine, create a civil war, or force those people into war?
That is a really deep question. I would say that right now there is no massive civil unrest, but if there was civil unrest, it would most likely create an abdication of Putin or an overthrow of Putin. It wouldn't probably devolve into a civil war, however, considering that it's a nuclear power. Everyone would understand that it's a very fragile situation if it devolved into that. So I have a feeling it would most likely just be a government change like we would have seen at the collapse of the Soviet Union or any other time during Soviet history or history after the Soviet Union. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you so much once again for support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Rob Wilkes yet again, who puts in a 5 and says, I would never want to be in an M113 in combat. I swear my first car, a 72 Buick Electra 225, was more stoutly armored.
Some people say that. A lot of people don't really have faith in the M113, but it was never really made to be shot at. It was more so just made to transport troops and make sure that they were protected from some artillery shrapnel. But it was not really made to be armored at all. So I would agree with that completely. And the M113 kind of shows its age, certainly nowadays. It's the MTLB of the Western world. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And a huge shout out to John Scott, by the way, who put in a $5 donation without a comment. And also shout out to Jason Curling, who put in a 3 without a comment. And huge shout out to John and Jason very much for that support. And we also have a 5 from Thomas Hansen. Once more, he says, Mr. Governor, one last trickery from my side. Are there aliens in Area 51 or Site S2?
Oh, everyone's always so concerned about where the aliens are. I would say they're nowhere. Like, I'd honestly think they're nowhere, damn it. Why in the world would we want to keep them around? I mean, wouldn't there be some kind of a diplomatic protest from the alien people? I mean, I feel like there would be. We would have to give them back. I mean, they're certainly not our citizens, so what right legally do we have to hold them here? It's outrageous, I say, an outrage.
Well, hypothetically, if the aliens were making big bucks on the S&P 500, we might keep the aliens around for a bit longer. For example, Mark Zuckerberg. He's a good example of this. He makes good money for the shareholders, and we keep him around. And he doesn't even have to live in Area 51. He gets to live in his house, smoke meats, and use Sweet Baby Ray's.
And also Elon, you know, he's another one, but he tries to catch on to the memes. And I don't really know if he's doing too well, but he's trying, you know. So I'll give him a little bit of credit for effort, but he kind of needs to work that out. But anyways, beyond that, I hope that does address that well. And thank you once again for the support in making this channel possible, my good man, my Mr. Senator. And so that we are on to the next one.
The next one is going to go to Thomas Hansen yet again for like the 6th or 7th super chat of the night. He puts in a 5 this time, and thank you very much, Thomas, once again for that support. He said, "Hold up. One last tricky question, Governor. Where do you both see the world in, like, say, 15 years?" And for me personally, on this question, Thomas, I would say in 15 years. I hate to say this because I'm not trying to be a pessimist, but I'm just being real here. World War III will have happened in 15 years. It will have happened, and I'm pretty confident about that. Because just imagine, the analysts say that Taiwan will get invaded at least probably in the next couple of years or 4 years or so. And also, we don't know how the Russia-Ukraine war is going to wrap up. We don't know how that's going to wrap up at all. And also, there's a lot of instability around the world. And I'm not sure if that's just going to simply go away without it boiling over into World War III. So, you know, I'm not saying the world's going to end or anything like that, but we'll have gone through probably trials and tribulations by the time the 15-year mark comes up. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, in 15 years, I can't talk about the diplomatic situation. I feel like a war may happen. I'm not sure if it's going to be a world war, but there certainly will be another major war that happens at least within the next 15 years. But the world of the future, I got a lot of hope for. I think computer technology is going to have come such a long way in 15 years that even the computer technology we have now will look infantile compared to the computers of 15 years. We'll probably see that most of the advanced world is completely shifted over from internal combustion, at least on the vehicular form, to electric propulsion. It would actually be a viable form of vehicle transportation at that point. Although there probably will still be some teething problems. But it was like that for early cars. But they eventually fixed all of those issues. But nevertheless, we'll probably also see that here in the United States, we probably will have gone through some sort of, I would believe, a major economic decline at some point, but we'll probably have rebounded like we have in the past multiple times, and that will have largely reset the economy to operate more efficiently than it was, much like the Great Depression kind of reset the economy back in the day, and really started to make the economy bounce forward even better than it had in the past. Because unlike many other countries like Rome, there really is no way for the United States to be directly threatened on its borders. Canada and Mexico are allies, and they always will be. And so it's not like anyone's just going to come running across the Rhine like the Roman Empire, and it's going to lead to its collapse. So I have a feeling that the United States will be doing fairly well in 15 years, most likely. I mean, there's no reason not to. Despite everyone in this country who either hates it or loves it, well, really hates it and they say it, or they hate it and they pretend like they love it but they really hate it, I think the country's going to be doing really well in 15 years. So I have a feeling the future looks bright, but, you know, there will still be tough times ahead, but I think that there is a lot of hope, in my opinion, for the future. And so with that, I hope that does address that quite well indeed. And thank you so much for giving us support, Thomas. And I hope that does address that question well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Quantum Fighter. He says, check out the AK-5D 5.56 30 mag I was trained on back on 2004 in the Swedish infantry military duty. Thoughts? Belgian clone, I think. I will say is the news. Ukraine and Sweden.
The AK-5D what? Could you say that all again? It sounded like a fax machine.
And it said AK-5D 5.56 30 mag.
Could you, is there like any dashes are in that or anything?
No, it's just AK-5D and the 5.56 is a round and it says 30 mag.
Let's see. So I think I finally found it. Because it sounded like you said 8K5D, and I was like, I don't know what that is. But here
8K.
it is. There it is. That's kind of whack looking. I'm not gonna lie. That thing is kind of weird. Like, what is this thing? The AK-5. Is it modernized in it? Yeah, that one looks modernized. It's got the SUSAT sight, which is kind of like the 1P29. But
Man, that's whack.
this thing is actually whack. Like, I don't know what to make of it. It's actually really interesting looking, but I don't know if I like it. Like, it's interesting, but I don't know if I like it.
Too much polymer all over it.
Yeah, and it's also really bulky looking. You know, like, I bet you it's small. Like, how much does this thing weigh, really? The mass. So, oh my goodness, 8.6 pounds. This thing weighs as much as, like, an M1 Garand. Like, that's actually pretty heavy.
Damn.
Like, dang, that thing's a hunk of steel and plastic. That's really interesting. I would like
That's
to get...
how much my Daniel weighs, like fully kitted out with like the scope, the flashlight, the foregrip, and like iron sights and everything.
And by the way, that's its empty weight. Let's see what its loaded... Its loaded weight is near to 10 pounds. But let's see, he said the AK-5C, right?
He said the AK-5D.
The AK-5D. It doesn't even have anything on the stats for the AK-5D. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Here's... Oh, actually, the AK-5D... I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't really know if I like this thing or what. But it is interesting. That I will say. But I can't say much more than that. But still... Thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel keep on running. A very interesting rifle. I would like to get my hands on one of these and try shooting it one day because it looks weird. I will not lie. It looks very odd, but I would like to try shooting it one day just to see what it's like. And because, you know, some rifles look odd, but then they end up being really nice once you shoot them. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one also goes to Quantum Fighter, who puts in another 5. And huge shout out to you, Quantum, for the second support of the night. He said, are the Russians still jamming planes in the Baltic?
Yes, they are. That has been an ongoing thing now since we last reported on it. It's just that no one really talks about it because it's kind of like a daily thing, and it's not that exceptional anymore. But yes, it's still going on. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And with that, we are fresh out of Super Chat questions. Cap. Once again, no cap. Huge shout out to everybody tonight that donated, by the way, because it, of course, helps the channel keep on running. and we appreciate it very much every single night. And I know we sound like a broken record saying that, but seriously, huge shout out to everybody for that, because it's literally the only way the channel keeps running. And it's because of y'all that PBS, aka the Enforcer channel, can keep running. But with that, we're now moving on to our live chat questions while my spreadsheet freezes up, kind of like my brain. Let's see here. Oh, luckily we have one more super chat that came in while that's trying to unfreeze. This goes to Thomas Hansen yet again. He puts in a 5. He says, "Oh man, one last tricky question." Uh-oh. Can I read this one?
Oh man, we can't. It's a political one. I just saw that. I was like, dang. I hate to say it, Thomas, but due to our no politics rule, sadly, we cannot talk about that because it's a political thing. So I thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. But unfortunately, we would not be able to address that one because it would require us to take a political side, which is something that we have as a rule on this channel that we cannot do. But still, I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, I think we're moving on to the Morse code message and 3 live chat questions due to time constraints. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
So the live chat decoders tonight were Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Benu, Paul Schultz, Kevin J, Rumpelstiltskin, David Millsaps, and Toxic Bananas. They said the Morse code says tonight, Russia is being overwhelmed by Ukrainian missiles and drones. Womp womp. Long live the LSA.
And that doesn't sound of money, and y'all got that dead on the nail. That was the Morse code message, and I wrote that way just so that way I could hear Matthew say womp womp. But beyond that, thank you so much once again.
Womp.
You know, that's like the modern day thing, Matthew, like, wah, wah, wah. It's womp womp. that's what it is. But anyways, I got to congratulate y'all for getting that Morse code message correct on the 828th day of the war, and rock on, folks, rock on. I love to see it, and thank y'all for doing that Morse code message like clockwork. And with that, we are on to our third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Gaming with ADOS, who says, Russian vehicles are getting smashed every day. And do we know a rough estimate on Ukraine's vehicle losses? And Slava Ukraine.
A rough estimate on Ukraine's vehicular losses compared to Russians, it usually is a ratio of 3 to 4 to 1 at the moment, from what I can tell. That's about the best figure I can give, because it's really hard. I mean, it's really difficult, actually, to try and say an exact kill-to-death ratio in between the Russians and the Ukrainians, because we get an approximate from video and picture evidence, but even then there's some losses that are non-picture and video evidence. So we think it's 3 to 4 to 1, but it could be even higher than that, or it could be slightly lower than that. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And also, let's see here. I saw someone get removed. Someone said something political and then said answer it, and I'm not answering that question. And it's a political thing. You've been around long enough, the person who specifically said that, and actually they're going to pry us to say something about it. You've been around long enough to know that there's a no politics rule on this channel, and that's strongly enforced. And this may be because I'm tired, but that one kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I run this channel, and if I want to talk about politics, I'll talk about it, and if I do not want to talk about it, I will not talk about it. And until the end of time, I'm not going to talk about politics. So do not push me to try and talk about politics, because the only thing that will happen is that you will most likely depart on bad terms with this channel. It's not going to make me talk about politics. That's all that will result in. So it's a negative thing. So either enjoy the channel and it's non-political leaning, or go. That's unfortunately the only options I have for you. But with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one is going to go to Uncovered. Oh, and also, bye.
Goodbye.
Then get out. Then be gone. I tell you, I've these bots. That actually wasn't a bot. That was just a lunatic, apparently. But bye. Good riddance. But anyways, we're moving on to our next live chat question. And this one goes to Uncovered Cube, who says, "Is this war comparable for Ukraine to our Revolutionary War?"
This is not really, because the Revolutionary War was to secure America's independence. Ukraine already had independence by the time this war began, so I would compare this more so to the Finnish Winter War or the Polish War, or the Polish-Soviet War of 1919 to 1921. Than the American War of Independence. I've seen some people say that, but that makes it sound like Ukraine is actually Russian and they're trying to break away from them, which isn't the case. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is lucky last person to put in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is, whoa, don't do it to them. That's literally their name.
Whoa, Jack, whoa!
Whoa, Jack, we got people in here telling us to answer it, and if we don't, they said bye. I said, get your ass up out of here.
like they're going to be missed. It's like you're trying to act like we're McDonald's workers, like you're just going to snap at us and order us around. It's like, no, that's not how that works. It's like if you want to talk politics, go start your own channel. I'll let you tear it down. It's like I'll let you tear down your own channel.
It's like, whoa, Jack, I really don't give a damn about politics, to be straight up honest. I don't care. And also, it's like there's a bountiful amount of options out there for the lunatic to go listen to whatever political view they want to hear. It's like if you want to go to your echo chamber, go to your echo chamber. It's like we don't care. It's like I really hate politics, honestly. Even though we don't talk about it, I hate it just on a personal level. But Enforcer, what are you saying?
Do y'all know how sick? Like y'all don't even know. Like, because I never talk about this on here. Do y'all know how physically sick it actually makes me to talk about politics? I actually have a physical reaction to talking about politics with most people, because it is just like the political discussion is so stupid these days. Like it really is. Like I've gotten a discussion today, and I didn't even know what the hell it was about. Like I had no idea. Talking about some esoteric bullshit or something like that. I don't know. Listen, I live in reality, and reality is not that jarring, it's not that emotionally shocking or anything. This is reality. I mean, it just is what it is. There's nothing really that crazy about it. And it's like if you are a extremely political person, I'm so sorry, but I'm never going to engage with you in a discussion ever. Like I'm not going to agree with you. I'm not going to disagree with you, because I don't like people who are extremely political. And I just don't like talking about it. Like period. Like yeah, I want to run for president, and I am going to get into politics, but that doesn't mean that I like talking about it or I like getting into goofy, pointless conversations about it. That's one thing I'm not a big fan of. So, that's kind of my take on it. And that's one thing that people don't get. I'm not wanting to be the president of the United States because I just love politics. I hate politics. I want to be the president just so that way I can change things the way I want them to be, hopefully, and then get out. Like, that's all I want to do. I'm not someone who wants to be a political person. I just think that
I just hate it how, I hate it how the politics has pervaded every single aspect of our daily lives now. Like you can't have a conversation and make a statement. Like for example, today I made a statement on Twitter, which was a statement about how democracy around the world is at risk. I had no intentions of speaking about domestic politics, but almost every reply, not all of them, was just a handful of people got extremely political right off the bat and thought I was talking about something else, which is in the news quite heavily. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, how the hell do people just default right to there's so many things going on in the world, but yet they default right to the one political domestic thing in the U.S. that's happening when I'm referring to that. It's like, why?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that. Because I went on my Twitter and I saw that, and I was like, yeah, that's true. We got to be vigilant against communism and fascism out there. Make sure the democracy stays ahead. And then I went into the comments below that because I saw that there was an extremely high level of comments, and then people were going, I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, is it this is all the world has devolved to is these shitty, pointless political discussions. They are stupid. I hate to say this. If you're an extremely political person, I'm terribly sorry. But I cannot stand it anymore. I really cannot. When I'm on this show, I do not want to talk about politics, domestic politics, ever. Never. I don't even want to get close to touching it. I can't stand it. And I cannot stand going on to Twitter because we, run a Twitter account that's got 15.9 thousand followers, which is pretty big for Twitter. And you go over there and all it is politics. For the past 2 days, literally every account, no matter what they were covering before, has been covering domestic politics here in America. I don't want to see it. I don't. If I wanted to, I would seek it. I don't want to see it everywhere. And I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to talk about it. It is its own thing. I'm doing my thing. I don't want to know about it. When people watch sport games, there shouldn't be politics. When people watch news, there shouldn't be a political bias. There's political bias in damn near everything now. You can't go out and enjoy anything anymore and just live your life and be happy about it without someone having to shove it down your damn throat on one direction or the other that the world is falling apart because of the other group of people that those people don't like. It's so stupid. If everyone just would shut up about it and not focus on it, you'd realize the world is almost like the same it was in the early 2000s. It's just that everyone's running their damn mouth so much you'd think the whole entire world's caving in on itself because of people never stopping talking about the stupid stuff. And then people get so obsessed with it. Now we're actually going overtime now, but it's fine. It's like we're starting to go overtime, but it's stupid. It just annoys the hell out of me. And then when I show up places, I'm trying to do things, and then people on every side now are into these insanely stupid conspiracy theories where like Indian chiefs dying here in America with their dying breaths curse the United States, so we're gonna reap the consequences of some Indian chief's curse. It's like womp womp. It's like terrible. That's not happening. Like that's not the real world. Like some dead guy is going to end up screwing over an entire nation that has a multi-trillion-dollar GDP and everything. That's ridiculous. Like
I think if people had a real political discussion, nobody would really want to talk about politics anyway, because real political discussions are actually, quite frankly, very boring.
Yeah.
But the real politics are like actual policy issues like fixing roadways and things like that.
Agricultural issues, things like that.
Yeah, those things can become very complex very quickly and very boring to listen to. That's why you'll never hear them being spoken about in modern politics, because that's really not what sells anymore. It just comes down to the emotional appeal. That's all there is now. There's really no like substance to it. It's just, oh, I hate them, and then the other person's like, yo, hate them too, and then it's just like who can like conjure up the most hatred. That's who's gonna win. It's like there's no real discussion of anything anymore. It's just like a bunch of mudslinging.
And let me be frank here. I'll be frank. The housing economy in this country is horrendous, and I don't see anyone on either side talking about that. The infrastructure situation is horrendous, and I don't see either side talking about that either. I don't see anyone talking about any situation in this country right now, like the agricultural situation that's going on in the background that sounds like it's going to start devolving into a serious economical issue. I don't see anyone talking about those issues, which are actual issues that would affect this country severely and everyone on a daily basis right now. Neither side is talking about that. Both sides are talking about how the other one wants to eat your babies or something like that in some form or another, because it's extremely emotional and it gets a whole bunch of over-emotional people involved in it so that way they go vote. It's so stupid. It makes no sense. It's not logical. It doesn't deal with reality. I can't get into that world. It just drives me crazy how illogical and stupid the whole thing is. And if I talked about it frankly, I feel like I would get a lot of people aggravated about what I would say about the whole thing. But it is so annoying, especially when you actually have a logical approach to this whole thing. You're like, okay, let's actually look at it from an administrative governance perspective. Let me look at what would matter. And you're like, okay, so the agricultural situation is a little difficult. The housing situation is really difficult. And the infrastructure situation is looking a little desperate at the moment. And then you go and say, okay, well, let me go see what both sides are saying right now on TV. And then you go out there and no one touches it. Not a damn soul from either side. It's crickets. Like no one talks about like they'll bring it up every once in a while, but it's like their third tertiary objective. It's like they want to eat your babies. They're going to kill your babies. And by the way, the roads are crumbling. We might fix that a little bit, but we need to focus on the killing and eating babies thing. And and that's both sides. Like it's killing and eating babies of one form or another. That's like the big thing. Everyone get pissed off. And it's stupid. I cannot get into that. Like that's why I refuse to get into that. Because once we step across that threshold, in one direction or the other on this channel, I get caught in that stupid, endless discussion that never changes. It's been the same since I was a kid in middle school when I actually paid attention to it. The discussion has been the same since 2012. 12 years later, people are saying the same crap. I'm not getting involved in that endless, insane, circular cycle, that stupid circular discussion that's been the same for 12 years. Like, when people really want to talk about what governance and administration is really about, then I'll get interested. and then I'll talk about it. But that's not happening anytime soon. And I would rather stay on something that sounds a lot more logical and practicable, which is talking about United States foreign affairs and also what's going on around the world as far as world conflicts are going, which are something that are measurable and has a far more intelligent and discerning audience, like all of y'all. That's what I would honestly like to do, and that's what we're going to keep doing. But with that, I hope that does address that quite well. And Matthew, did we even get to the final?
Pretty well.
Yeah, I think we addressed that the best we can. And with that, it is time for us to get on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person to put in the lucky last question of the night?
All right, we have one more super chat to address, and this one's going to go to Thomas Hansen once again, and he puts in a 10 and says, "What's the what's the clock now in the states east or west here at 7:28? And is Mickey Mouse or Bender going to join the fight? I hired the Predator."
What the hell? I mean, Mickey all the way, because Disney will get down to brawling. Oh, we're breaking ribs. But anyways, moving on from that. Right now, the time zone in Central Time is 12:40. I think in Eastern Time it's 1:40. In Mountain Time, which is the central area of the United States, it would be 11:40, and then on the Western Seaboard, which I think is Pacific Time, it would be 10:40 a.m. So I hope that explains the American time zones. We actually have several, but for the lower 48, we have 4 separate time zones. It's Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. And I hope that explained the times in each of those time zones. And also, thank you so much once again for asking a really good, easy question for us to round out on. And with that, it is time for us to end. I've got to thank everyone so much once again for watching tonight. Sorry for going into my rant at the end there. It's just that someone said a comment that rubbed me the wrong way really badly and just kind of annoyed me. Sorry about that, everyone. But still, I hope that I got my point across about how I feel about that, and I hope that everyone understands. And it looks like everyone did in the chat, and I thank you all so much for appreciating and understanding my stance on that, and why we continue to remain a politically unbiased channel that just covers the news the way it should be covered. And with that, I gotta say, if y'all did enjoy that little rant, if y'all enjoyed the rest of the show, the rest of the 3 hours and 30 minutes of the show, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, and make sure to comment. We are actually only 20 subscribers away from 218,000. So if you subscribe, you will probably end up being the 218,000 subscriber, which would be pretty cool bragging right for you in the future. And also, make sure to like the stream. Make sure to comment. We got 3.6 thousand likes on this thing. We could probably get up to 4,000 if y'all hit the like button. If we don't, it's fine. But it would be cool if we did. And of course, we will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die. Put an LSA in the chat, and good night.
And also, good night, folks. Thank you all for another great stream tonight. And with that, we'll see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to join us then as well. And also, maybe even a short war summary tomorrow if there's enough news to cover. But with that, don't forget to go check out officialenforcerstore.com and take a look at the merch, which we have the t-shirts, and we also have the LSA patches as well. Go check it out. And also, we'll see you all tomorrow. Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava, and good night.
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.